If you enjoyed today's video, please consider subscribing to the channel. When you do, make sure you hit the notification bell. That means that you will be informed of when a new video has been released. If you would like to take that support one step further, you can do that via Patreon, which is an optional monthly service. You can donate money towards the channel, or you can go over to Ko-fi.com, and for the price of a coffee you can help donate towards the channel as well. Links for all of those will be in the description of the video, and without further ado, enjoy the video. So, all ready?
Yeah.
Good man. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you happen to be listening and now watching another episode of the Non League Nosh. I'm James, and as you can see, sadly, I'm not joined by Adam this evening. He's not feeling 100%. Just a couple of sort of tummy issues, nothing too serious and nothing to get too worked up about. But he's not here tonight. But if you are one of those guys that listens to the podcast on any of our other podcast platforms, such as Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, all that kind of stuff like that, as I said, we are now bringing these podcasts to you in a visual form. So if you want to go and watch this podcast, head on over to the YouTube channel and we will be there for you. If you're watching on YouTube and you didn't know about the other podcasts, they're available as well. So if you're on your runs or in your walks or whatever, you want to listen to us on the go, you've got another way of doing it. But yeah, as you can see, my guest to my left, I don't know if he'll be on your left or your right at this point. If you're watching it, I have no idea. But Marvin Bartley, rather, how are you doing, sir? You well?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Very well.
Good, good. How are you finding things at the moment? We always start the podcast off with that question. How are you adjusting to life in lockdown, considering you're still in the game at the moment, you're still playing? How have you adjusted to life?
You know, I'm trying to be as positive as I can about it. You know, I'm concentrating on trying to keep my fitness up. Not just doing long runs, 5K, 10K runs. I've tried to do other forms of fitness, you know, hit sessions on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm doing something called Animal Flow, which is kind of a progression on yoga. And these things don't only, you know, keep me fit, but they mentally stimulate me because, you know, I'm doing something out of the ordinary for me as a footballer.
Yeah.
That's so important. It's not about just being physically fit, also, you know, mentally engaged.
Sure. I mean, one of the things that we, when we had Joe Jacobson on, was we asked the question, did the club set any kind of regime for you right from the beginning? Because obviously right back then, we had no idea if this was going to be like a 2 or 3 week thing, a month thing, 6 months. Did they set anything for you to kind of get you in the rhythm of being at home, like any diet plans or any fitness regimes? And if so, has that continued or has that kind of stopped?
Yeah, well, like you say, at the start, we didn't know how long it was going to last. I think once the government made it quite clear that, you know, football wasn't going back and it began to be suspended, the club started to be proactive in terms of giving us programs like you mentioned there. Luckily for me, you know, I'm 33 now and I kind of know how to maintain my fitness, how to get myself fit, you know, and how to keep myself fit. So they're quite flexible in terms of the stuff that I do.
Right.
Yes, I've learned that over the years I've played football. But definitely for the younger boys, you know, it's a lot more structured in terms of what they do. But as I said, you know, I can't just go and do 5 and 10K runs. You know, one, because I don't really think it's football specific, and two, I need something to mentally stimulate me. Also,
that's the thing with runs. I kind of found this. Obviously, I was nowhere near the level that you were at, but just running for the sake of running, you don't do that during a game. You will have moments where you stop, then you sprint, then it's a light jog, and then it's a stop. And then, do you know what I mean? Like a constant run, like from a fitness perspective, yeah, great, it kind of works. But from a football perspective, it's not really ideal. And then, again, when I spoke to Joe, you're going from running on grass to running on concrete a lot of the time. And that adjustment on your ankles, that's not going to benefit you really in the long run, is it?
No, exactly. And, you know, boys start putting up with, you know, as you say, sore ankles, sore knees, tight calves. And like you said, you know, running 5K or running 10K, a continuous run, I don't think there's ever been a footballer who's, you know, did that in a game. So, you know, we're footballers, so I get that clubs want players to keep fit, but I think you have to be a bit more inventive. And, you know, football's kind of evolved since the days of just going out there and just running for the sake of it.
Yeah, running up the hill to get fit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
yeah, go and run down the beach or, you know, stuff like that. So, as I said, the club have kind of allowed me to, you know, maintain my own fitness, so to speak.
Sure.
But yeah, the long runs won't do any good for my body, especially at my age.
As a footballer, because we had Alex Bradley on, who's a youngster currently playing at Lincoln City. We asked him the question of how is he adjusting to life without it, and he said one of the things that he's struggling with is the competitive environment. It's not necessarily what you're doing in training, but just going up against other athletes. That's what he's struggling with compared to just being at home and doing exercise. I mean, obviously he's a different part of his career to what you were at. So how are you, does that sort of things affect you, or are you more focused on you as an individual?
No, I do definitely miss that side. I think that will never go from you as a footballer, as a person. I miss the training side of it, just being in and around the boys every day. But also, obviously, I'm coaching stuff with the reserve, so I miss planning sessions and putting the sessions on. So I miss an awful lot of things. And then, like you say, the games are what all footballers are in it for. So the Saturday, going and playing, and 3 points on the line and playing in front of the fans. It's a massive mixture, but definitely the day-to-day stuff is very, very difficult to kind of be without. And that's probably what I'm missing the most, just being in and around it.
From a mental aspect as well, has it given you, I suppose, maybe an eye-opener to what life will be like once the game does come to an end for you? Because again, the kind of mixture of guests that we've had on, that one of the things that they've said is when you're taken out of that environment of having 15 odd years of being told where to go, what to eat, what to do, where you are, what your whole day is planned out for you, has this given you kind of like an early indication of, okay, this is what life after football could potentially be like?
Most definitely. I think you've hit the nail on the head there in terms of it's kind of made me think, wow, I've got 2 years left of my contract, now 2 more seasons, and then this is going to be me. And it kind of made me think, a lot of footballers who do retire and they start to suffer with mental health stuff and depression and whatever else. I can kind of see where that comes from because as you said, everything in my day-to-day life is ran and evolves around football. For that, something to be taken away and as quickly as that, which it will be, when my career does end, the same way that this pandemic's taken away from me. So I can definitely see that's going to be a huge miss, and it's kind of made me even hungrier if possible. That when I do go back, I train every day like it's my last. I play every match like it's my last. I've had that attitude because I came into the game late, but if I could strengthen that, then I definitely have.
Yeah, I think I can't remember what show it was I was listening to the other day, but somebody was saying whenever we do get a season back up and running, it is going to be the most competitive season you've ever seen, because you've suddenly got people who are literally chomping at the bit to get going. That next season, whenever it does happen, it's going to be mental, isn't it? Really, from a viewership perspective, it's perfect. It's exactly what you want.
Yeah, and that's kind of what us as players we should have. And I think you probably have individuals that have that hunger and chomping at the bit constantly, but now it's going to be a collective thing. It's going to be every player out there. The laziest of players are going to want to run a little bit more and work a bit harder. And it's really going to be. I think it's going to be brilliant for football, and not also just us as players. I think the fans have got that kind of that hunger and that passion. And when you begin to miss something, you want it back as soon as possible. And I think when football does come back, the fans who will probably like, oh, I'll go to that game, I won't go to that game, will be at every game now. I think it's going to be so much better for the footballing family, from fans to players and everyone else in between.
That's it. So let's talk a little bit about the Scottish game overall. For a lot of our viewership, it is mainly English orientated. So all of our leagues are all up in the air. We've had step 3 to 7 of the non-league football been completely cancelled, null and void. National League is still undecided. We've got League 2 who have said we're finishing our season. League 1, 50-50. It's chaos. From a Scottish perspective, the season's done. It's been decided. Obviously, the headline was that Celtic won the league and Hearts are going to be potentially going down. From your perspective, obviously being at Livingston, how do you kind of reflect on the season now that end of season's been taken away from you?
First and foremost, as probably a disappointment, and if you'd asked me at the start of the season, Livingston in 5th, I'd have bitten your hand off for it. But I think because of the season we had, and because of the strength that we were kind of going into in terms of us as players, but we also had the 3 games before the split. We had Hearts at home, Aberdeen at home, Kilmarnock away, and we felt as a club that we could have got a lot of points from those games. And then you're going into the split. We really thought we could have pushed for a European place. So disappointment for us is that, we didn't get to do that. But as a club and as a whole, listen, anyone associated with Livingston Football Club would have taken your hand off to finish in 5th place.
Yeah.
And that's one thing we have to be proud. Yes, there's an element of disappointment, which is good, because next season we'll come back and be hungry and want to improve on things. But let's live in the moment for now and be proud of what's happened. And obviously it's disappointing because, you had 8 games to go. But I'm awfully proud of not only myself, but the club, every player, every fan, every member of staff, because together we've managed to achieve something that no one would have, thought of us.
No, I suppose probably from a pre-season perspective, a lot of teams, a lot of pundits and media would have probably had the club down as right near the relegation battle, wouldn't they?
We're last. A lot of pundits had us down as getting relegated. That's the long and short of it, really.
Yeah.
Nobody would have had us in 5th place. Nobody at all. And that's the great thing about football. When you go out there, it's 11 v 11. It's not about the wages you're on. It's not about the fans that you have, or where you've been in your career. It's 11 against 11. And, obviously more times than not, we've gone out and we've performed and we've taken points and won games we shouldn't have. Nobody had us down to win or to draw, beat Celtic, drew with them as well at home, 4 points off the champions. Taking 4 points away from them. And I think we're the only team probably in the league to do that.
Yeah, that's it. As I said, it's a very good campaign all around. So, as I said, what we kind of spoke briefly before we went, say, on air, so to speak. But we always start off these podcasts, and we've been at this for probably about 10, 15 minutes now, actually, chatting. That's kind of flown by. But we do always do opening questions just to kind of, for our audience to get to know you a little bit better. So I don't know if you've done your research prior to this. This is where you go, yes, James, I have watched your podcast. So here we go. Chinese or Indian?
Indian.
Tea or coffee?
Tea. Never had coffee in my life. Never.
What?
I don't like the smell of it. I've never tasted coffee in my life. Well, a hot coffee, should I say, because Bailey's is kind of coffee, isn't it? But not a hot coffee.
I won't tell you what I'm drinking right now then. Just to get right past that. Your favourite biscuit to dunk?
Oh, there's one from Asda, extra special, salted caramel cookies. 8 in a pack.
Nice.
They're top notch.
Yeah, you see, this is where I need Adam, because I'm very simple. I just like ginger nut biscuits.
Yeah.
And what's the other one I have? I can't even remember what the other one is now. That's how basic my life is. Whereas Adam knows all of this kind of stuff inside out. He knows the prices. He knows the quantities. He knows everything like that. He would literally be agreeing with you so much right now. Now, you may or may not have an answer to this one, but do you have a favourite alcoholic drink?
Probably. I've started liking wine, red wine, rosé wine, but Disaronno and Coke probably used to be the go-to.
Yeah, it's just easy on a night out, isn't it?
Yeah. Not that I have many of those.
Yeah. Instagram or Twitter?
Twitter. I think there's a lot more interaction on Twitter.
Yeah, of course, especially over the last couple of days. Jesus Christ.
Exactly.
Myself included, I've turned into a bit of a political analyst. I could be working at the BBC if I carry on at this rate. Christ. Let's have a look. Favourite type of music? What are you into?
Do you know what? This is so funny because I was at home earlier and I was listening to my Spotify and I said, if somebody said to me, what's your favourite type of music? And they listened to my playlist, it's all over the place. I mean, there's Bruno Mars, there's Eminem, there's, I don't even know, sings a song, Something Inside So Strong. There's, honestly, if I play my Spotify, there's everything. I don't have a genre that I like. I like absolutely everything.
That's
everything.
Fair enough. I'm more into actual just like singles rather than like albums, etc.
I'm probably the same as that. Yeah.
Whereas Adam, he can like recite his top 10 albums off the top of his head.
Oh, really?
He's well into it. Right, this one. We always say favourite box set. Now, when we say box set, some people interpret that as boxer, but I'm meaning favourite TV programme.
What, now or that I've ever watched?
Ever watched. Let's go with ever watched.
There's a show called The Wire. I'm not sure how many people would have seen that. But I enjoyed that. That's probably what I enjoyed the most. Sons of Anarchy is another one. Yeah. Those two are the best two, I think, that I've ever watched.
There you go. I think Adam's watched The Wire. Again, I can't work without Adam. This is terrible. I can't work without him. I'm so basic. My favourite is Game of Thrones. That's just
You know what? I've just started that about 2 weeks ago. There you
okay.
go.
Where
Must
are
be
you
the
up
only
to?
person in the UK. I think I'm on maybe the start of season 5.
Oh wow,
Maybe.
you rattle through them then.
Yeah. Because obviously you've been off, so there's nothing else to do. So I've hit
How
them
you
hard.
liking it?
Oh no, I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
When my friends used to talk about it, I used to be like, dragons and this and that. I'm like, come on, grow up. Here I am, 33, sitting there like edge of my sofa. But no, I think it's decent, really good.
I was exactly the same. All my family were into season 6, and they were saying, "You've got to watch this program." I sat there watching the first couple of episodes, and when I saw the dog die, I was like, "No, that's it. I'm done. I'm not watching this anymore."
Yeah, because I've got a dog yet.
I was like, "No, I'm not having this." And they were like, "No, you've got to keep going with it." My wife at the end of series 1 was hooked. I had to get to the end of series 2. I was like, "Okay, I get it now. I get it." Your favourite film?
Oh, wow. Training Day, probably. American Gangster's another favourite of mine. Both Denzel, so Cool Runnings as well. That was decent back in the day.
Oh, what's a film?
That was decent.
Oh, Sanka, you're dead, man. Oh, dear. Cats or dogs? I think I know the answer. You've already
dogs, 100% dogs. Yeah.
Good call. Other than football, what's your favourite sport? Do you have anything you're interested in?
Play or watch?
Sorry?
To play or to watch?
Watch. I'll say watch.
Yeah, I don't mind watching rugby. Not that I can sit there and watch a full game, but I don't mind.
Right.
I don't mind rugby.
Right. Cool.
Rugby.
Good call. FIFA or Football Manager?
Football Manager all day long.
Man.
All day long. I've been playing a couple of FIFA tournaments, obviously for charity during this lockdown period, but Football Managers, that's my game.
You any good at FIFA? Because I'm terrible. I haven't played in about 5 years.
I'm bang average. Like I'm worse than average. Let's be honest. No, I'm not good at all.
Right. Honest. Very quickly on Football Manager, who is your current save, and have you signed yourself?
No, I haven't signed myself. My current save is Sunderland. So I've only played one season. I started again. So I've played one season, got promoted. So I'm just in the Championship now.
Good man. So you thinking maybe about getting yourself on as a coach, maybe in a couple of years?
Yeah, when I retire, have Marvin Bartley manager, Marvin Bartley coach.
What a duo! Let's go on to some football stuff then. Who do you support? What were your team going at? Arsenal.
Arsenal supporter, yeah. So it's not been a good couple of years, but still there, still supporting them.
I was going to say, try being a Norwich family.
I know a couple of boys who have played down there.
Yeah. In all fairness, Farker has brought the good times back. But we'll see what happens with this season. But there we go. Favourite player growing up?
Ian Wright. That was kind of forced upon me by my mum. I think she fancied him, and she said, Ian Wright's this, Ian Wright's that. So I was like, oh, Ian Wright's the best. So yeah, Ian Wright.
Who did you try? Did you have somebody that you tried to model your game after?
I used to like watching Patrick Vieira. Just at the point, when I was coming into probably men's football. So, my Marvin Bartley say I'm trying to model my game on Patrick Vieira. The things we've got in common is we're tall and black. So yeah, Patrick Vieira.
The best player you've seen live. Let's finish on that one.
Mbappe.
Yeah?
Yeah, watch PSG v Celtic.
Right.
So Mbappe, Neymar, just on, the whole team, to be honest, they're on a different level. Scary.
Just on Mbappe, because obviously, I mean, unless you have BT Sport or anything like that, it's very difficult from an English fan's perspective, other than seeing YouTube clips that, anyone can put together a YouTube compilation of highlights and tricks and stuff. Just what is he like? Obviously, being in the professional game, just to watch his movement and what it is that he does. Just on how good is he?
He's the best way I could probably put it is that he does things on the pitch that when I was watching, I wasn't even seeing until he started doing it. Then I realised. Now that shows you how far advanced his mind is, because he's taking the whole game of football. Whilst making these movements, I'm up in the stand watching the game. No pressure on me. Nothing at all. Not worrying about someone running into me or who's got the ball when they're passing it. I can't see what he's doing. Until after he begins to do it. he's frightening. Honestly, he can play for anyone in the world. He goes to any team in the world and he starts anywhere. And that probably sums, not many players out there that would, go to any team in the world and play. And he's definitely one of them. And still a kid.
Yeah. Which is scary, which is really, really scary.
Yeah.
Great answers in there. Marvin Bartley, Patrick Vieira. There you go. That's the clickbait done already.
Yeah. I'm better than Vieira.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So let's get into talking about your time in football, where it kind of all started from and how you got to this point. One of the reasons why I wanted to get you on the podcast is, with it being called the Non League Nosh, our emphasis on the show is to talk about the benefits of being in non-league football, what it is to be part of the community, etc., and how important it is to not only fans' perspective, but also from a player's in terms of their development. So your journey of going from non-league up through the pyramid is something that I wanted to talk about and just have a sit-down chat with you to go into a bit of detail. But before the non-league stuff started, just take me back to prior to, I believe it was Reading, where you started off your career.
Yeah.
Prior to Reading, how did that move? How did that move to Reading come about? How were you spotted? Where were you playing? What kind of level of football were you at? And what was the situation back
right at the start? It was kind of a whirlwind really for me. I didn't take up playing football till the age of 10. I have two older brothers who were football fanatics, and I didn't have a love for it. I really, really didn't enjoy football. And that was watching it or playing it. They used to go and play with their friends. I used to go with them and play with my friends. I didn't enjoy football, so much so I used to pick the ball up and run away with it.
Really?
But there was never any pressure put upon me from my mum or my brothers to play football. And maybe my brothers tried a little bit, because we were young kids. But my mum, there was never any pressure. Oh, your brothers play football, you need to try and play football.
Sure.
And I think that helped with my development, because I got to the age of 9 or 10, and then suddenly I was like, I want to play football. And I signed for my local Sunday league team. I remember I was in year 5, going into year 5, so I signed for my local Sunday league team. That was going quite well, and that was throughout the summer. Then when I went back to school, going into year 5, I said, I want to try out for the football team. I tried out for the football team. Obviously, I got into the football team, and my PE teacher, or the man who used to take PE there, said, "Oh, you're actually quite good. We've got like a thing called Reading Schoolboys coming up, which was all the best, year 5 and year 6 that go to schools in Reading, all come together and make one team to represent the town." So I went to there, being a striker, I was play up front, and we had too many strikers in the trial games. They said, "Oh, we need someone to go and defend, and then what we'll do is we'll swap it at half time."
Sure.
So I went into defence for that trial game, and I found it relatively easy, and I don't mean to sound big-headed or anything like that, but I just thought, wow, this is like a duck to water kind of thing.
Yeah. And
I really thrived in that position. I managed to get through all the trials in that position. I never actually went and tried to go up front because I was doing so well at the back.
Yeah.
I got into Reading Schoolboys in year 5, and it was brilliant. I was playing Sunday League, playing Reading Schoolboys, and then probably halfway through that season, Reading Academy approached my mother and said, he's doing really well. We want to have a look at him for the academy team.
Yeah.
And for me, probably a year ago, I wasn't even playing football. To now, Reading are looking at me. So I was like, okay. They said, all right, we'll get him on a trial. It was at a later date. So it was a 6-week trial. I went down for a week, and they signed me. They're like, no, we really interested in him. Yeah.
Wow.
We want to sign him. So I ended up signing there. And, kind of from there, kind of my love for football changed a little bit, because it was a lot more structured in academy football than what I was used to in Sunday league football. Sure. Definitely what I was used to playing with my friends in the park. So the first year at Reading, they allowed me to play Sunday league as well as playing for Reading. So I think Reading games were a Saturday or Sunday morning, and then my Sunday league games were like 2 p.m. Right. So I managed to combine the two for the first year at Reading. The second year at Reading, they then said, no, you can't do both. Now it's just academy only.
Right.
Which obviously as a young kid, you're kind of like, okay, I'm playing in academy football, and you're not going to choose Sunday league over that.
No.
So I went into that, and it became more and more difficult the more I was in there. It was more structured. The fun part had been taken away from me.
Sure.
And this is what I was in football for. I joined as a young boy to have fun with my friends. with my school friends, with people who lived around the same sort of area as me. And now
Yeah.
I'm in Reading Academy, and you've got boys travelling down from London, you've got boys coming up from Southampton, and so forth. So, it got really, really serious. And I remember, like, maybe under 13s, I think I was going in for my end of season talk. And I was like, to my mum before we went in, I was like, I don't really care if I get released here. I really wasn't enjoying it. It was almost felt like a chore rather than, a privilege to play.
Yeah.
She said to me, just go and see what they say, and we can deal with it from there. So I
Mm.
went in, they gave me another year on my contract, and I was just like, don't want to do this. But I said to my mum, okay, I'll go back next season and see how it goes.
Yeah.
But I think now looking back, I was mindful. My brother was at Crystal Palace, and he got to under 16s where he should have, he was expected to get his scholarship and a professional contract. He's turned down Chelsea and Arsenal going into the under 16s, and he was released from Crystal Palace, and it left him heartbroken. And obviously, when you got older brothers, they're kind of your heroes. So
yeah,
at that age, when I was 13, I didn't want to go back to Reading, but I thought, I've seen how much it broke my brother when he got released. Imagine me turning around and going home and being like, oh, Reading offered me a contract, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to play something.
Yeah. I'm not bothered.
He was chasing his dreams. So I think that maybe put a little bit of pressure on me. I put pressure on myself, never for my family, put pressure on myself. And I went back for that next year, which was again a nightmare. I was playing games, playing all the time, not enjoying it. Got to the end under 14s, and I remember Phil Parkinson was just doing his coaching badges, probably kind of in the role that I am now. He was captain of the club and doing his coaching badges, and I had my end of season meeting with him, and I was released from the club. And he said, I was tiny at this point as well. I think I was like the third smallest in my year up until I left. And he said, we're going to release you. It's nothing to do with your ability. We don't think you're going to grow that much. This, that, and the other. It's like, no, that's fine. Like, no resistance from me at all. So much excitement from getting released. I called my Sunday league manager on the way home in the car and was like, I'm coming back. Like, I'll see you, I think, train, like, whatever. I'm coming back. We have 5-a-side tournaments because going into the summer.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a relief for me at that age. And people probably listening in would be like, wow, like that's unusual. But that's what it was. It's not always, a bed of roses playing this academy stuff. So I went back to Sunday league. I carried on doing that, still playing for Reading Schoolboys up until, I left school, I think at 15, year 10 it stopped. So played for Reading Schoolboys another year, playing for Caversham Boys all the way through. And that team stopped at under 16s. And I joined a team called Henley Town, which was a local village team to me.
Right, yeah.
So I signed for them, played there under 17s. And I remember got to the end of that season, I was playing in the allied counties. Again, I went back up front at this point, scoring loads of goals, playing for reserves, doing well. And I was hoping for my opportunity in the first team. I remember the manager said, I don't think he's good enough for the first team. And they brought in a boy who was a year younger than me that had this big reputation.
Right.
And he went straight into the first team in the same position. And now that kind of frustrated me because I thought, right, I've been here for a year. I've worked my way from the allied counties to reserve, scored goals at both levels. And then this has just happened. And that's probably my first taste of realising that football is kind of cutthroat and doesn't matter about going through certain, situations or thinking you've got a career path somewhere. It's not always the way. So I ended up leaving there and joining something called Fido, which was Hayes basically, now Hayes and Yedden. They were in the Conference South, but they had something with East Berkshire College, Langley College, where you go there and do a BTEC course. You'd also play football alongside it. So it's kind of, that was Hayes' youth team. The way of getting their boys full time between 16 and 19, you could do it without paying them because it's all government funded.
Sure.
So I went and did that for 2 years, and I got into England colleges through that as well. So that was perfect. Went to Italy, to America, to other countries as well, just representing England as the best, 18 or 20 college players that they could put together. So that for me was fantastic. Met a lot of good people. A few boys went pro from there as well. Chris Lyons, Liam Feeney. A few others have gone pro. Nick Pope did it as well. There's a few other boys. They put a team together the other day, Gareth McCleary. So that was a fantastic time. A fantastic time in my career. And, whilst doing this and going through kind of the Fido side of it, I was playing in Hayes reserves and then, Hayes first team, but I was in and out and I wasn't getting the opportunities that I wanted. I wanted first team football. I wanted to play football. I wanted to be in amongst it. I wanted to be playing for 3 points on a Saturday where it meant something. So I ended up going to Burnham with my brother. Well, both my brothers, you know, Michael was the star man there, and me and my older brother Mark, we went there with him. And I remember I played maybe 16 or 17 games there, and the manager released me.
Really?
And it was, but you know what? It was probably something I deserved, because at this point I was, you know, I wanted to be a professional footballer. I was telling myself I wanted to be a professional footballer. I wanted to be. But on the flip side of it, I was working as a double glaze fitter and you know, fitting conservatories. And on my lunch breaks, I was eating pies, you know, fizzy Lucasade. I wasn't looking after myself. So I was a pretender. Do you know what I mean? I was saying, okay, I'm fitter than these guys I work with, which no disrespect to them wasn't hard. So I was thinking, oh, I must be all right. But really, when I was trying to go into a full-time football environment, you know, I wasn't doing the right things. And I got released, and that hit me hard, you know, but it kind of, I said to myself, right, you either do things properly and make the sacrifices you need to off of the pitch, or you just float around at this level, you know, try and be a big fish in a small pond, so to speak. And, you know, I kind of flipped the switch and said, no, I'll make the sacrifice I need to make. I'll dedicate my life to the sport. You know, I love playing football. I still play Sunday league football, you know, playing for Burnham on Saturday. I went back to Hayes, who placed me on a contract. So I signed a 2-year contract there. Well, 1-year contract, 1-year option. Got to the end of the first year, the manager got sacked, and the club didn't take up my option. But what they then tried to do, they realised that they had messed that up, and then after the date had gone, they tried to say, oh no, we're going to take your option up. And I was like, well, the date's been missed now. So, but that went on with the FA for a while, and the FA just said to them, listen, you know, you have to release the boy from, you have to give him his forms back basically because you've missed a day. That's the rules in the contract. I then went on to Hampton and Richmond under Alan Devonshire, who's at Maidenhead now. And again, that was another turning point in my career, because I'm a Reading boy. I didn't know anyone that played for that football club. But I said to myself, you need to go and do this, and you need to play at a place where nobody knows you. You know, you have to almost earn your stripes. You know, I had to go and perform so people respected me. I had to earn everyone's respect. You know, it'd have been easy for me to go from there, you know, and float around teams in and around the Reading area, because, you know, from Burnham, I was at Hayes, wasn't playing enough, went to Burnham, went back to Hayes, you know, was playing all the time, was looked at, you know, really well. So I said, no, let's step away from this. Let's really try and push yourself on. And Hampton Richmond allowed me to do that, because not anyone disrespected me there, but no one knew who I was. You know, I was a young boy coming up from Reading. Who am I?
You've got to prove yourself at this point, I suppose, haven't you? And
I managed to do that. You know, I only played 1 season there, and I had a fantastic season. Don't get me wrong, my form wasn't always unbelievable. I wasn't always the best player on the pitch, but I was learning, constantly learning, game in, game out, game in. Alan Devonshire's played at the highest level, played for England. You know, so that helped me also. But, you know, I kind of played that year. And as it was coming towards the end of the season, teams began to become interested in me. MK Dons under Martin Allen offered me a trial. You know, I went down to do that. And then he kind of left and went to Leicester. So that got put on a back burner a bit. I was meant to go and sign at MK Dons, I think, like the day or 2 days after he ended up leaving, which was annoying, because I'd gone on my trial and they said, right, come back on this date. And, you know, unfortunately he had left. So I was kind of a bit in limbo, but I knew I wasn't going back to non-league football. There was too many professional teams interested, whether it was a trial or whatever else. I knew I'd have the opportunity to do that. And yeah, you know, he left, and I had an agent who I started working with maybe 2 games before the end of the season. The MK Dons thing was already sorted out. He kind of stepped into it. And as a young boy, and this is why I see young boys in non-league football, you know, talking about this agent and that agent, and there's a lot of agents out there that you just can't trust. And, you know, my middle brother Michael's just started his own agency. And, you know, there's one thing, I think, because of the way I've been treated, he wanted to do this. You know, agents are really out there. A lot of them are for themselves, you know. They don't really care about the player or whatever else. And I learned this pretty early on with the MK Don stuff, where my agent was like, okay, Martin Allen's left, he still wants you. I'll get it sorted out. So I went away to Zante, I think it was, with my friends, and had a bit of party, and I was calling him what was going on. He's like, we're going to sort it. I came back, nothing had happened. Bournemouth then contacted me and said, I'll come in for, you know, pre-season. They had you know, I think they were looking to sign 12 players. So I went down there for a trial, while still obviously working. I went for a week trial, so I booked a week off work. They wanted me to stay for a second week. I didn't have the time off. I couldn't probably afford it at that point as well. That's probably another thing, because it was unpaid leave I took. So it was, I ended up going back and playing a game against Weymouth on the Tuesday after my week trial. And because I've been working all day, I got cramp after 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I ended up coming off before half time. And then the Saturday, we played Southampton at Dean Court. Got cramp again, managed to soldier on until half time. And I thought, this is the end of my trial. I'm not getting in here. There's no chance. You cramped up in 2 games. Why are they going to take you on? And I'll never forget it. I was sitting in the room where Kevin Bond was getting boys to come in and out his office, and he came in with a envelope. It was Jeff Mostyn came in with an envelope and said, "Here," and I was like, "Okay, what's this?" Like, because I was never expecting a contract, never in a million years.
Really? Yeah.
He said, "There's your contract," and do you know what? And this is the God's honest truth. I didn't read the contract. I just signed it. I had no interest. I wanted to be a professional footballer. It could have said, "Marvin, you have to pay us £100 every single week," and I would have been paying them. I had no idea. Signed the contract. Didn't check anything. Didn't check it. Didn't even check it was in my name. It could have been in anyone else's name. Didn't check a single thing. Signed the contract. Didn't know how much I was on. Didn't know how long it was. Didn't care. The Marvin Bartley at that point and still now, the burning desire to go and play professional football, outweighed anything else.
Yeah. So just a couple of things on that journey that you've been talking about there. What do you think? Was it going off to the school and the college side of it? Was that what flipped the kind of switch on in your head to say, this is what I want to do now? Or what was it that you've gone from not wanting to be a part of the Reading setup, not really wanting to be part of football when you were younger, and then all of a sudden I want to be a professional footballer? Which part in that journey was it where it changed for you?
Now I kind of look back. There's probably a couple of things that flipped the switch, so to speak. I think getting released and being told I was too small. I think that was maybe one. Although I was relieved to get released, I think when I look back, when I got a little bit older, I look back on that point and said, actually, I proved them wrong, especially when I began to grow when I left school. But definitely going into that college environment and doing the BTEC, and I'll be honest, education is a huge, huge thing. But at that point, all I cared about is how often we were training in the week.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be in a classroom, I'll be honest. And that was probably the first time I went back into a structured environment that felt like full time. And the last time I was in that was at Reading, and I was too young for it. It's too early on in my career. I wasn't ready for it at that point. I then chose to go into that environment. That was probably the difference. I chose to go into that environment when I went to Langley College and joined the BTEC course.
Do you feel that college kind of matured you in a way? Because I didn't do football at college, but the one thing I remember, the first lesson of my college was, if you're not here on time, the door is locked and you're not coming in.
Yeah,
we're not going to give you any special treatment now. You've got to want this. And that lesson, very quickly, you suddenly go, right, I've had all that time at high school messing around, doing whatever the hell you want. You turn up 10 minutes late. The teacher gives you a bit of a lecture, but then that's it. You set into your routine. But do you kind of agree with that college probably helped you develop and mature you a little bit?
Yeah, it was time to be a man. When I first left school, I did an apprenticeship, mechanics apprenticeship. I didn't enjoy it, but going to college and being in that environment, it was time for me to step up to the plate.
Yeah.
And to probably tell myself, let's dedicate yourself to this. And my dedication, I'm not going to say it was always up there. It went up and down. As I spoke about, when I was playing non league after this, I was eating pies and stuff and drinking Lucasades. But when I went into Langley College, there was definitely, okay, let's knuckle down, let's see how far you can actually go. And then, next minute you're playing for England colleges, you're wearing the England kit and the tracksuits and whatever else, and representing the country. So I think, when you do dedicate yourself to something and then it starts to bear fruit, I think it kicks you on again, and you keep kicking you on. And these things now, they should never have motivated me. I should have been motivating myself. But at that point, that's what was, flipping the switch for me.
So when you are at Reading Academy, you talk about the dietary stuff, like when you were when you were later on. Back then, when you were in that academy setup, was there anything for your dietary needs, or were they more focused on what you were doing on the pitch? I'd love to just kind of know.
Yeah, no, there was definitely stuff that you should be, eating and drinking and stuff you shouldn't be. But I just felt I was just too young for it.
Right.
I really did. I'm a kid. I want to enjoy playing football. And, a lot of the boys that I was playing with there have been playing football since they were 5 or 6. So, playing from that young age up until the age of like 11 and then Sunday League being taken away, you've had a good amount of time in there.
Yeah.
Where me, I don't even think it might not even have been a year.
Yeah.
So.
And during that second year when they told you that you couldn't play
Mm.
Sunday League football as well, do you think, looking back, maybe if they'd have allowed you to continue doing that as well as what you were doing, you would have developed and enjoyed your time at Reading far more than what you did?
Definitely, and that's what I didn't really understand. Why was that the case? Obviously the football clubs will have their own reasons behind it, but you're on contract at Reading, so if you go and impress in Sunday League and another club scout you, for instance, you're still on contract at Reading.
Yeah.
I really didn't understand why they were so, hell bent on restricting boys from playing Sunday League.
Did they
Like I
ever
said,
try to explain it?
No. They were just that was it. They're the big
Right.
club. There's not many boys that will go in. Let's be honest. I didn't even go and say it, but I was probably the only boy even thinking that. Everyone else was delighted to be at Reading. They had the kind of pushy parents. Go and do this. You want to go and play for Reading. You want to be a future star. But for me, I was just there playing football. I was just lucky enough that I was good at it. There was no one pushing me and forcing me to do it. I had the support. My mum was always there to support me, always there to watch me. But I was never forced to do it. I was never forced to play.
Yeah.
You
So moving forward to then the Hampden season, just before we kind of go back onto that trial period of your career, when you're in that non-league environment, you've moved away. You said that was your opportunity to show what you're actually about. What did you learn about yourself in that time period at Hampden and Richmond?
I learned that I learned a lot. I learned that I wasn't probably being as professional as I needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that I wasn't probably the player that I thought I was.
Right.
And the way I say that is that when I was playing at Hayes, everything was kind of, I knew the way they played, so I kind of was okay in their style of play and their system, and I was used to it. I came through that. Going to a different team, playing a different system, I wasn't as effective as I wanted to be, or as I had been. Although I was there and I was still playing every game, and they're obviously impressed with how I was playing. I knew I was better than that. I knew I could have been better than that. And that was very frustrating at the start. Why am I not performing to this level?
When you've moved there, have you established your position at this point? Whether or not because I know at the beginning you were striker, defender.
Now I'm a centre midfielder.
so yeah, that's what I was just about to say. Like, when was that at Hampden that they pushed you into midfield, or had that already begun a little bit before that?
That had already begun. So when I went into the Fido scheme, the last time I was playing up front regularly was before the Fido scheme. So I was still at Henley.
Right.
When I went into Fido, I then, again in a trial game, went into centre midfield and then ended up staying there. I knew I wasn't good enough to make it as a striker, but I didn't enjoy playing in defence.
Right.
So, do you know what I mean? So I ended up in the middle, midfield, and it's probably helped me playing in both, attack and defence to try and play that position.
I was just about to ask you how much of a benefit does it have, because then you've kind of got a bit of an understanding about both sides of the game.
Yeah.
You read situations that maybe when you've got someone who has been a defender their whole life, doesn't understand that other part of the game, whereas you know kind of how that person's going to move, what they're going to do, what kind of flicks they're going to provide, all that kind of stuff like that. It must be really beneficial.
Yeah, it's super beneficial. And like you say, you start doing things and start blocking things off before the striker makes the movement.
Yeah.
When they're doing certain things, what they're trying to create, where they're trying to create the space. So you almost allow them to think, okay, Marvin's going to fall for this, when really where the ball's going and you're going to step in. So it's like they'll normally, I know it's a basic one, but they used to drop their shoulder to go, pretend they're going long and then come short. Yeah. And I used to go back with them and then come forward. Now I'm centre midfield and I'm trying to screen someone and they make a certain movement. I know what's going to happen. So I almost allow the gap, just enough of a gap for the defender to attempt to play it to then step in. And it's almost a game of cat and mouse, a bit of Tom and Jerry, because if I step in there too early, he's not going to play that ball. I want him to play the ball when I know he's playing it, and playing in these different positions has definitely helped that.
Yeah. So again, kind of the time you were at Hampden and Richmond, you mentioned about that adjustment period. How many games do you kind of feel that you were in when you got into a bit of a rhythm? Was there a particular game or a turning point that you suddenly felt, okay, this is what I'm about. I'm now finally showing what I'm capable of?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was a few games before we played AFC Wimbledon at home, and the reason why I know it was around that time, or definitely when other people began to respect me, was because I knew someone who played for them, and they said that their game plan was to basically stop me from doing what I needed to do. And that kind of made me think, you must have been doing okay for a time. But other than that, I can't really remember. Someone actually got sent off for trying to half me. He hit me with a tackle on my thigh. And the more I think back to that tackle, I don't know how I got up because my leg was straight and he's hit me in the thigh, which lets you know how high the tackle was.
Yeah.
But he got a straight red. So that was in my mind. That might have even been close to the end of the season. I can't even remember. I just remember that game. I spoke to my mate after and he said, yeah, we were all focused on stopping you doing anything within the game and whatever else. I thought, okay, you must have, you're starting to earn people's respect now in this league as well.
I mean, how much of a confidence booster is that for you as an individual, knowing that is what the team's game plan is?
Oh, it's a huge confidence booster. Absolutely massive. And at that point, I didn't even let it get to my head. I was just like, oh, okay, and kind of, just got on with it. Where other times, speculation has got to my head and my form's dipped. But at that point, here and now, I was just like, oh, okay, kind of thing. Like, it is what it is. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, keep grafting away, keep working hard.
Yeah. So let's go on to you've already talked about the Bournemouth trial and what happened during that period of time. Was it a 1-year contract that you were offered? Is that right?
Yeah, it was a 1-year contract. Yeah, but I was telling you about what the agent had done because that was what happened. I signed the contract and I got in my car, spoke to my mum and said, I've signed my contract, absolutely buzzing. Got in my car, started driving up the M3. Alan Devonshire calls me. You all right, Marv? I thought he was calling me about how was the game. I was like, yeah, I'm fine. How are you? He's like, where are you? I was like, I just driving home from Bournemouth. He's like, oh, we just had Martin Allen on the phone. Been trying to get hold of you. So I was like, okay, why? He's like, I want you to go straight to Leicester now. I want you to sign a contract. So I was like, what? And my agent at the time was a guy called Mark. So I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, yeah, he's been speaking to Mark. And what happened was Martin Allen didn't know Devonshire was my manager. And he didn't have any idea. So it's only when he found out, he called him. But he said, when Marv was signed for MK Dons, there was a £5,000 agent fee that, they were going to pay Mark. I was a free agent, so, there was no transfer fee. When he then went to Leicester and said, yeah, I still want to sign Marvin, Mark said, okay, it's now 15 grand. So Martin Allen was like, hang on a minute, I was signing this boy last week for 5 grand. Now I've gone to a bigger club. That's not right. I'm not doing that. It's not going to happen. So I've gone on the high of being, yes, I've signed for Bournemouth to, oh, wow, I could have been at Leicester. And I think Leicester are in the same league at this point, but they're obviously a huge, huge club.
Yeah, definitely.
And that was kind of my first thing with an agent where I thought, wow, is this really the world I'm going into?
What is that like at that age when that scenario does happen? Like, does it quick? How are you adjusting to that mentally? Is that must be a weird situation to be in?
Yeah, your bubbles burst. Definitely. Yeah. No disrespect to Bournemouth. Listen, I had a great time at the club. Love the club. Still look out for their, scores and do their podcasts and whatever else. Still speak to the manager and the assistant. But at that point, me being honest, when I got in my car before, ever playing a game for Bournemouth or a competitive game, my bubble would burst. And I remember I got home and I couldn't even call my family to tell them the reason why I got home, and I explained the situation to them. And my brother Michael, who's the one who got released from Palace, sat me down and said, would you have taken being a professional footballer, 24 hours ago at Bournemouth? I was like, of course. He said, would you 12 hours ago? And I was like, of course. He said, well, listen, you've got an opportunity that you wanted to get. Forget about everything else that could have happened or should have happened or would have happened. You're not signed to this agent. I wasn't even signed a contract with him. He just said, I'll represent you. I was like, oh, okay, fine. And he had the cheek about 3 or 4 days later to call me and say, oh, are Bournemouth going to pay my fees or are you? And that kind of just summed it up for me. But yeah, it's very difficult thing to deal with.
Yeah. Obviously, that first season of Bournemouth, a difficult time for everyone connected to the club. There's a lot of stuff going on off the field. At that point in your career, are you thinking about what's going on kind of off the field? Do you allow yourself to kind of get affected by that? Because it's always interesting from a fan's perspective. It's the main thing that dominates your mind when that is your club that's going through it.
Yeah.
You often hear pros come out and go, well, no, I'm just purely concentrating on my game. I'm not focused on stuff that's going off the pitch. But realistically, how much does it affect you when all of that is happening, going on behind the scenes?
It definitely affects you. Any professional who says it doesn't, it is lying to you. But one thing I will say to you about me personally, the effect it had on me was minimal because I was in this full-time environment. I was back in that bubble of I'm a professional footballer. 6 months ago I was eating pies and fitting double glazed windows. I'm a pro now. So all this off-field antics that are going on and people are raging about, I'm just so excited to have this opportunity to be at this football club, to be training every day. I don't really care, and it didn't affect me. And that was probably the best thing about it, being a young boy. You're kind of so probably naive and shut off to all these other things that you just manage to carry on playing football because you're doing something now that you love.
So obviously, because the club end up getting relegated that season, don't they? Again, for you as a pro, after that first year, what are you thinking now? You've had that first season. You've played a lot of games for the club. I think you had over 20 appearances in that first season.
Yeah.
It was only a 1-year deal. So what are you then thinking about you and your career? Are you then wanting to stay despite what's going on at the club, or is there any interest at this point from other teams?
Yeah, I'm not even thinking about leaving. I just wanted to stay in a professional game. Yeah. And like you said, I'd made quite a few appearances that season, and my first appearance came through luck because Kevin Bond had named a squad that had 6 loan players in because he thought one of the boys was signed permanently. I wasn't even in the squad for the Tranmere game. And then, he realised what happened. One of the loan boys had to come off the bench. I went onto the bench. And before you know it, I was the first sub going on. So, yeah, that whole season was like a whirlwind, and came to the end and we'd been relegated and there was tears there, because the boys were upset and whatever else. And we knew that Sam Vokes was going to end up leaving because he was a young boy at this point. He's from around the Bournemouth area. But we knew he was going to have to leave because we needed wages to be paid. But my thought then was, I just want another year, playing professional football. I'd love it to be here, but I would take it anywhere, wherever I had to move, whatever I had to do. So, yeah, that was kind of my thoughts, after that season had finished.
Definitely. That first season, just under Kevin Bond, very quickly, what was he like as a manager? Because I only know much of Kevin Bond because of what my dad has told me about him being a player for Norwich.
Yeah.
I don't know a huge amount of him being as a coach, other than I know he's worked with Harry Redknapp a little bit. But what was he like as a manager? Just talk to me about him.
He's probably best
that season.
Yeah, he's probably better suited to maybe a coaching role. I don't mean that disrespectfully.
Some people are, though. Some people are not cut out for leading, so to speak.
Yeah. I think he gave it 100% effort. He gave everything that he had. Just obviously at that point, I knew nothing different in terms of the professional game and what managers were like. But just obviously going on in my career and playing under certain managers and different managers, I probably felt that he was probably better off in maybe a coaching role because he had good ideas, but I didn't really see him as a manager. Now I look back. I just don't think he maybe wasn't best suited to be a manager. And I don't think he's had another manager's job. Well, he had the Southend job actually, didn't he, last season?
Yeah, and that didn't.
It didn't go too well.
It didn't go amazingly well, no. But during that following season, then it's more struggles in terms of the club on the pitch as well as off it again. He doesn't last very long at the beginning of that season. So then a new manager comes in. He lasts a few months, and then Eddie Howe comes in.
Yeah.
Again, as a player, new to the game, how does that affect you in terms of trying to get a relationship built up with people around the club? Again, so much kind of going off it. Are you still in that mindset of, I'm just enjoying this? This is just an amazing thing. Or has that first season bubble kind of popped at that point?
It did kind of pop, definitely, because, Kevin Bond brought me to the club and lost his job. We then had Jimmy Quinn come in, who for me was, obviously I said I'm from Reading, he was a Reading legend, went on to be player manager with Mick Gooden. But again, he wasn't a manager in the sense that he didn't want to do it, I think some people are managers by job titles and some people are managers by the way they kind of go about it. And for him, it was more a job than a lifestyle. He wasn't really interested in being in and around it. But in terms of Eddie Howe, he was obviously working under Kevin Bond. So when I first signed with Kevin Bond, Rob Newman, and Eddie Howe was just retiring because of his knee injury, or just retired rather. So, I was quite familiar with him because what he used to do is the young boys, he used to work with us, 2 or 3 times a week in the afternoons on position-specific stuff. So I managed to work with Eddie on a lot closer basis than a lot of players. There was me, Jason Pearson, and a few others that used to do it, Brett Pittman.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew Eddie, and obviously when the takeover happened and Jimmy Quinn came in, Eddie was actually demoted to under-13s manager. I think he was, or under-15s manager, one of the kids' teams. And we used to go past him sometimes when he was bringing their kit back to get washed at the stadium. But I think that tells you a lot about Eddie Howe as a man, because he didn't say, right, I'll stuff this, I'm going to go elsewhere. I've been a first-team coach and now I'm doing the kids. He got on with it. He brought their kit in. At times he's probably washing their kit. He was doing jobs that nobody wanted to do.
Yeah.
It's not like, youth football now where things are really structured. At that point, he's probably just like, run like a Sunday league team, no disrespect.
Yeah.
So, he then came in as manager and it was chalk and cheese. As I said, I mentioned there, I touched on Jimmy Quinn, the way he managed was that he'd just been given this job. It was just a job title. Eddie Howe was his life, and as soon as he came in, you realise that the time he used to put into it, he was, first in, last out, how in depth he used to go. For a man at that point and back then with a club with no money, he made use of every last resource that he had. Had a man called Des Taylor who still works with him till this day, scouting for him. Des was selling fruit and veg, but wherever he was, he used to drive around and sell it, and I think go and visit, different companies all over England. Wherever he was, he used to go and take a game and report back to Eddie. So, Eddie was very clever in what he did. He was fantastic, And analysis stuff that I have now, obviously, is gone on leaps and bounds. But back then, he was doing everything he possibly could to let us know as much as we could know about, the opposition. And he was just so determined, and it was infectious. It really was infectious. When you have that sort of character and that someone who's put in, everything into it, you can't help but be inspired by it. You can't help but follow that, and that's how he was.
Definitely. After that, after Eddie joins, the club stay up in the division. The following season, I just want to know, how did he get a team that's, fighting off against relegation? I know you mentioned about getting every ounce out of every part, department. How did he manage to turn the team from that to being promoted? That's just an incredible turnaround for a club, isn't it?
But the way we had finished that season and the confidence and the, for the younger viewers, the swagger, that we kind of played with towards the end of that season, we went into the next season really believing that we could do something. And all the other teams in that league probably didn't even look at Bournemouth and think, they'll be up there. But we genuinely believed we could do something. Now, when people ask me about Eddie Howe, and this is the best way I can describe it, we were robots to Eddie. So if you imagine us all lined up in a factory, and he'd put a chip in you as a person, and if you would go and do what he wanted you to do, you would stay at the club. If you malfunctioned, as a few did, you were out. So we all knew our jobs. We all knew what was needed from each other and from ourselves. We all knew what he wanted us to do. And that allowed us to go through and, get promoted that following season. Yes, nobody respected us, but we had a lot of players who came from the non-league circuit. A lot of players with something to prove. It wasn't boys on their way down, it's boys who were looking up. And we had that mindset, as not only as me as an individual, but us as a squad. Everyone, there's boys who've been released from Chelsea. We had Jason Pearce, who Portsmouth said he wasn't good enough. Let's be honest, we were rejects and misfits. We all had that determination, that hunger, and were willing to make that sacrifice away from football to make sure we were right on the pitch. And, he was putting into us the right information, the right stuff we needed, the right training sessions, throughout the week. And then the output he was getting on a Saturday reflected that. So we were just so hungry, we didn't respect anybody. I didn't care where you had played, I'll go and play against you, and I'd played 25, 50, whatever it was, league games, and I'll go in there and think I'm going to be better than that centre midfielder. Whoever I played in there with, Anton Robinson was another non-league boy, or Danny Collins, who'd been released from Chelsea. We didn't care, we had that hunger. We respected nobody, we thought we were better than everyone. It
just reminds me so much of, and my audience, because I'm Suffolk-based, they're going to hate me for this, but it does remind me so much of the Norwich team under Lambert. it was a team of, a team full of players that either had been at the top and had worked their way down, and people who had been at the bottom who were then coming up into the game. And it was just a mash of people who had so much to prove.
Yeah.
All it needed was a bit of a confidence boost of someone to go, right, just express yourself, lads. Just go and play. I know you can do it.
Yeah.
And just that camaraderie, as I said, it just reminds me so much of that double promotion season under Lambert. It's that kind of mixture.
And that's what happens though, because if you begin to believe in the project, and you begin to work hard, before the results start coming, and then the confidence comes. And that's what football's about. I will take 11 hard workers over 11 talented players who don't want to do the hard graft all day long, because we weren't the best team. We didn't have the best squad. We weren't the best 11. Didn't even have maybe a top 10 player in that league, but yet we got promoted. And that shows you that sometimes, there's more to football than just how good you are as an individual.
Yeah, it's about how you apply yourself. And the following season, good times keep going for Bournemouth until halfway through the season when Eddie Howe leaves to go to Burnley. Now, I know you made the move a couple of weeks later, didn't you?
Yeah.
So when he moves, what are you as an individual thinking? Had there been any contact with Burnley prior to him moving, or did you go because he knew what you were capable of and he wanted to bring you to that club?
Solely down to him, but I'll be honest with you, when he left the club, I didn't think in my wildest dreams again that he was going to take me. Not because I was a bad player, not because I wasn't performing, because there was teams interested at that point, But me and Eddie have a massive mutual respect, but I'm a very, I'm the sort of person that I always ask you questions, why is it, why that? And to be fair to Eddie, he would always say, this is the reason why. And that would be the end of it.
Yeah.
I'm not a player that if I ask you a question, you say, just because. That for me is you're not coaching me anything. Just because what? Just because you think so. Well, I disagree, and I'm one out there playing. So me and Eddie used to argue and stuff and whatever else, but we always had that mutual respect. And he left in the change room. But when he left, it was heartbreaking because I'd really really enjoyed working under this man, as have everybody else. And it was Messiah's leaving. If anyone who watches Money Heist, it's like the professor, being taken out, and you're like, well, where do we go here?
Yeah.
It was so hard.
So for you then, I suppose that's then the first, I say, major kind of, left on your own, so to speak.
Yeah.
I know that obviously the move only happened a couple of weeks afterwards, but where is your head at once he has gone? What are you then thinking about you and your own career? Do you just not get that time to really sit down and process that kind of information?
Well, I thought that this is the end of us, and that's how much we believed in him.
Yeah.
He was leading us everywhere. He was always a leader, and then your leader's taken, and you think, this is it. We're going to start going in different directions. We're not going to know what's expected of us. We can't do it without him. Those 2 weeks or 3 weeks, however long it was the longest period of my life. I remember we played the Friday night against Colchester away, and there was a lot of speculation about him going, and I think he told us before the game, he's like, right, just go out there and do yourselves proud today. But it was so weird, it was surreal, because we always had the same playlist, and whoever's playing the music was playing it.
Yeah.
And Eddie walked in, and I can't remember what the song is, but the lyrics were along the lines of, like don't go or something like that, blah blah blah, like something like really emotional. And it was so weird because he came in to talk, obviously to tell us this, and that song began to play. So he said, right boys, and then those lyrics kind of came out, and then the person stopped the song, and then he instantly went red and almost like he was gonna burst into tears. He was emotional. And obviously we're sitting there now thinking, well, what's going on here? And this is obviously before he names a team or whatever else.
Yeah.
And he told us, and it was just, as I said, it was weird. It was a feeling that I didn't think that football could make me feel, in terms of, it's like someone in your family member had, gone, kind of thing. It was really, really strange, and it was hard. It was hard to mentally get over that, because I looked up to him, I still do. Yeah,
definitely. Now, for a lot of people who may or may not be aware of the situation back then, there was a bit of a dispute that the chairman of Bournemouth came out and said that you had forced through the transfer to Bournemouth. Now, I know obviously you've came out recently and you've said your side of the story and that didn't happen. Just for our viewers who are listening maybe to this for the first time, in your own words, what happened during that period of time to get the move to Burnley? What happened in your eyes?
So obviously Eddie Howard gone, you know, and it came towards the end of the transfer window, and Burnley were then showing an interest in me. So I remember they made a bid. I think it was on the first bid, might have been the day before the transfer deadline day, or maybe 2 days before. Whatever, they made a bid. The chairman has said, like, it's not enough. We're not going to let you go, because we were pushing for the playoffs at this point, or maybe even automatic. We had a chance of Lee Bradbury was taken over. He wants to keep you, blah, 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 blah. So like, okay, fine. Bradders has spoke to me. I still speak to Bradders now and said, you know, we want to keep you, this, that, and the other. I was like, all right, cool. It then got to deadline day, and Burnley made another bid, and we were training for some reason on this day. I don't know what day the deadline was, but we were training. And Bradders like, right, what do you want to do? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, if we say to you, you know, we can accept a bid or whatever. I was like, yeah, I want to go. Like I said, the money is going to be on offer. It's going to be absolutely massive. They had bid, the chairman rejected it. Now at this point, I'm not even using an agent. So I'm like, okay, cool. I then remember, you know, Burnley had been in contact and said, oh, we think we're getting close. Think it's going to get accepted. You know, almost like prepared to come up. We'll book you a flight if it can get done. So I was like, okay. Chairman rejected the bid again. So I was like, right. So it got to Eddie Mitchell, I think maybe called me. It got to probably about, I think the deadline closed at 11. It got to about 6. And then they rejected another bid. So I was like, right, that's it done, because, you know, I'm in Bournemouth at this point. You know, for me to get to Burnley is going to be near on impossible. Then he called me and he was like, right, if they pay this figure, like, you can kind of go. And then that was it. Eddie Mitchell said to me, do you want to go as well? And I said, yeah, of course I want to go. It's going to be life-changing for my family.
Yeah.
He's like, right, well, I want more money, or I need, like, they need to hit this figure. I was like, okay, cool. So they accepted a bid. I don't know what time it was, but I remember Eddie Mitchell said to me, but you're not going to make it there now. But, you know, I've got the money that I want to get. And I'll never forget, like, when the bid before the one that got accepted, I began to go from Bournemouth. My brother Mark was in Reading, and I was like, we're not going to make this. So I've met him at Reading in my car, and we sped up there like you wouldn't believe. You know, how I didn't get, you know, so many speeding tickets. I have no idea. Got there, didn't have time to do a medical. Literally got into the office, signed the contract. They went to fax it through, and the fax machine got stuck. So, but before this point, you know, nothing. There's no problem with Eddie Mitchell. He said he got his money he wanted. I was going to Burnley. That was it. There was no me refusing to play. You know, I didn't. Even now, I'm still in that kind of bubble where I love playing football. You know, yes, money like it helps and whatever else, but it's not the be all and end all for me. You know, I've come from absolutely nothing. I've had absolutely nothing, and I mean that, like nothing. So I was still getting paid okay at Bournemouth. He said they were going to give me a pay increase. It was what it was. Okay, cool. But you know, as I said, they accepted the bid, got up there, I said, sign the contract, no medical. Fax machine got stuck. So they put me and my brother in a hotel up there, which was always the plan. He then, to be fair to him, had to go back down to work. So he left early hours of the morning. And I remember I woke up and I had a missed call from Eddie. So I called him. I was like, you're right, Eddie. And he's like, right, the transfer's not gone through. But also, Bournemouth have fined you, I think it's a week or 2 weeks' wages, because I wasn't at training. And I'll never forget, the first team at Burnley were going away to play Nottingham Forest. So I was like, well, how have they fined me? Like, what the hell? Like, they knew I was here. They accepted the bid.
Yeah.
But, right, get in your car, head back down the road. Said, what we'll do is we'll loan you when the loan window opens, and then we'll make it permanent. As I was heading back down, you know, I got another call and said, all right, the FA, because apparently when you send a fax, it shows the time you tried to send it. Proof that they tried to do it. But then all the stuff about Eddie Mitchell began to come out. Like, you know, I think I'd seen the papers. I might even have seen the papers before on my way up to Burnley, and I was thinking, what is all this crap?
Yeah.
You know, what is this? Like, I'd never refused to play for the club. But then, you know, did the same thing with Royce Wiggins. Another boy said, he refused to play. No, I didn't. I've never once refused to play for Bournemouth Football Club. You know, it's not within me.
So at that point, because I asked Dean Hammond about this very same thing last night. He had a very similar situation. He said it took everything in him not to reply. and not to respond out in public, because he said that if he did, it shows and it reflects on you as a person for any potential transfers and for any interactions with managers moving forward.
Yeah.
At the time, did you respond? And if you didn't, how much did it take you not to respond?
Do you know what? The thing is, because I'd gone to another club and I respected the fans of that football club as I still do, I didn't respond. But I was absolutely raging that he had gone out and said that. You know, when at the end of the day, that didn't happen. You know, as a chairman, if you don't want to sell a player, you don't accept the bid. You know, but what he wanted to do was accept the bid, and as you can see, didn't ever reinvest the money. So he wanted as much money as he possibly could. I've got the money that I wanted now. I think it was something along the lines of that. That's all he cared about. But for me as a player, you know, I'd done so much for that football club. They had done so much for me. You know, I had a great understanding with the fans. You know, it was absolutely brilliant. For me to go under that cloud and it wasn't true was hurtful.
Yeah.
You know, and I've only managed to, like you say, speak about it the other day because I've been given a platform to do it. Because, you know, back then I was thinking, and I had like newspapers calling me, and I was just like, I just want to move on from it. And I could have really gone, you know, hell for leather into him and been like, well, hang on a minute, where's the money then? Like, he's not even going to invest the money back on the club. All he saw me as is he wanted to sell me. And it was so weird because I didn't have a bad relationship with Eddie Mitchell.
No.
You know, so many people do, and
it just came out of the blue.
Yeah, it just, I just think he panicked when he saw the reaction of people saying why they accepted the bid.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, let's put it on Marvin. And I kind of understand that, but I think he could have done it a different way and said, listen, the club, you know, everyone's got a price tag. We're a selling club. This is what it is. We've sold him, and, you know, we move on from it. But he just didn't want to go down that route. He wanted to put all the blame on me, and I was extremely disappointed. And let's be honest, I was saddened by it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'll ask the same question I asked the Dean. You know, why didn't you respond at the time? Was it very similar reasons to what he said? You knew what it could potentially do down the line, or were you just not?
No, I think it would have been tit for tat. If I would have said something, then he would have said something, and then I would have had to respond again. And if I would have responded, then he said something, and I didn't respond, it'd be like, oh well, Eddie Mitchell was telling the truth.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know what? It's probably best to leave it the way it is. Because anyone who knew me knew that wasn't true anyway.
Yeah.
You know, they knew, and anyone who knew him and the way he was being in and around the club, you know, they knew that he's probably like not telling the truth. But also, I'd gone into a new football club, and I probably owed them the respect to not go and speak about the transfer that's just happened. You know, it's a new time for me with bigger wages, a great opportunity. Yeah. And I'll be honest, you know, I had to put my full focus into trying to, you know, step up a level and trying to achieve my goals that I'd set out at that football club.
Yeah, it's very similar to Troy Deeney at the moment, where people are saying, oh, well, he's obviously doing it because, you know, he doesn't want his clubs to be relegated, and, you know, in terms of like COVID, etc. And he, you know, obviously he came out and said, look, I don't care if the club don't want to pay me for it. I'm not bothered. I had no money before. I've worked hard, and I am where I am now. If they don't want to pay me, I've been in that situation before. I'm not bothered. Yeah. I know what I am.
That's the thing, you know. As people look at footballers, and Troy Deeney's that doing it wrong will be an extremely rich man. They look at you and think, oh, you must be making an excuse, you know. And as much as people hate to say it, a lot of people are jealous of footballers because everyone wants to be a footballer when you're younger. So whenever somebody can get a dig in at a player, at a manager, people do it. Mm-hmm. You know, Troy Deeney's not doing it for financial reasons. He's doing it because, you know, of he maybe his family or someone close to him is at risk, or he doesn't want to be risked himself. And these same people who saying to Troy Deeney, oh, he's doing it because he don't want Watford relegated, when the schools open back up, they won't send their kids to school. They'll be like, no, I don't want to send my kids to school. You know, there'll be definitely people who are, you know, want to self-isolate. Oh, why are all these people down at the beach? Why this? Well, you want this boy to go and play football. So your football team that you've got no affiliation with other than you support them, you know, you want him to go and put his life at risk, but you won't send your kids to school.
Yeah.
Well, come on.
Nail on the head. So you moved to Burnley. I want to talk about that time where Eddie Howe is your manager there before he then goes back to Bournemouth. What do you think was the main difference between the Eddie Howe at Bournemouth and the Eddie Howe at Burnley? Because a lot has been said about his time there and how things didn't work out, and I think he's openly said that he just never settled into that particular area, and he just couldn't adjust to life up north, etc., etc. For you as a player, did you kind of notice anything like that, or was he still the same Eddie Howe that you had known at Bournemouth?
Same Eddie Howe. The biggest difference was the culture within the squad. He'd inherited a squad that had gone on to play in the Premier League and had been relegated.
Yeah.
He'd inherited a squad of a lot of players who thought they were better than Burnley at this point now, who were better than playing in the Championship.
Right.
I spoke to you earlier about when we were at Bournemouth, everyone was hungry, wanted to go up the way. You know, we were kind of robots. You put a chip into us, we'd do anything he wanted us to do.
Yeah.
Went to Burnley, it was very different. There was a drinking culture. You know, the boys wanted to go out all the time. Now, these things fans never, ever see. No. Eddie Howe will never, ever say these things because he will never want to put the blame onto somebody else for what is seen as a failure.
Yeah.
He done the best he possibly could with that squad. And when people talk to me about certain footballers, and I'm not saying the whole squad because there were some fantastic people at Burnley, some fantastic characters, but a minority of players there were what I call unprofessional professional footballers.
Yeah.
They're professional footballers by job description and job title. The way they live their life, they weren't professional at all.
Right.
And now when you've got too many of them within one squad, any manager, Mourinho, Klopp, Wenger, you cannot succeed when that is the case.
Yeah.
And that is the way football works. You cannot succeed when you've got too many people pulling in the other direction and trying to derail things, and misery always has a best friend. So if they're unhappy and they're doing these things, they're going to try and pull someone else in. Someone else who's not playing, I'll come and do this.
100%.
And people didn't want to accept it. It was nothing to do with how he went about his business. He tried to change it up. He brought in Kieran Trippier, brought in Ben Mee, he's still there to this day. Jimmy Stanislas, he plays with him down the road, Bournemouth now. He was trying to make changes. He had a lot of boys there who, Eddie Howe was almost seen as a hero at Bournemouth. He'd been there under Kevin Bond, but he'd also got sold to Portsmouth when a club were desperate for money, years before. The fans loved him, the players loved him. Went to Burnley, this fresh-faced young man. What was he, 33, 34?
Yeah.
The players there were older than him, same age as him, played at a high level than him. So I'm not listening to him. And when people don't have that respect, you can't put that on a manager. It's like you see managers getting sacked nowadays. You can't always put everything on the manager. Sometimes the players have to look at themselves. And at that point, the only people that let that football club down under Eddie Howe's regime were the players.
So as somebody who is used to his regime, at the time, did you have much of a voice in the changing room to be able to, say to the lads, look, come on?
No voice. I'm playing who am I? I'm a player who came from non-league, went to Bournemouth, came up there. Seen as Eddie Howe's love child, same as Charlie Austin would have because he signed us. We're young boys. We're kids in that changing room. I'm in a changing room with international footballers. Boys who are playing in the Premier League.
Yeah.
They're not going to listen to me. And to be honest, I don't have the right to that. Boys who have been at bigger clubs. And it was an unfortunate time. And I think I would like to think some boys who played under him at that point will look back on that time there and be upset with the way they conducted themselves, the way they carried themselves.
Yeah. Interesting. Because, again, you see what, as you quite rightly said, what Eddie Howe wants to put out there, he puts it out that it's down to him.
He'll always put it down to him. Though.
Yeah.
Anything can happen. Things that happened at Bournemouth where certain things happen that you wouldn't want to talk about, he'll put it down to himself. Mm. And if I'm a manager, I'll do exactly the same thing. When I'm a manager, I always take the blame. There's no point me coming out and saying it was players doing this, because nobody cares. Yeah. Nobody cares. Only when a player like me who was within it and has nothing to gain or nothing to lose by being either way says it, people may begin to listen.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. And I suppose from a club perspective as well, when things are not going the way that you think they are going to, if you've got aspirations to go up and you're not in the playoffs, etc., when that comes to a decision, it's a horrible thing, but it's a lot easier to get rid of one manager rather than 10 players, isn't it? And it always falls on the manager. Yeah,
of course. But it was a rebuilding job, and they knew that. They didn't want to instantly bounce back up. They didn't spend huge amounts in the Premier League. They knew it was a building job. They had a lot of players who were going the wrong side of their career, kind of thing. There needed to be a clear out. Mm-hmm. The club knew that. And when Eddie did leave and go back down to Bournemouth, I think the club would have kept hold of him if they could have. Obviously, personal tragedy within his family that probably made it even harder for him to be up there. But in an ideal situation, I think the club would have wanted to keep hold of him.
Yeah. And then from your perspective, kind of fast forward into when he does go, what's that like for you?
Well, it was hard even when Eddie was there. I'm away from home for the first time and I'm in and out of the team. I went into the team, had a really good run. I was then taken out because of a bigger name was kicking up fuss in training and his agent was causing havoc within the club. And
Right.
it was seen all to the end of the season, then Marv can come back in again. And that didn't sit well with me,
No.
As you can probably tell by being on this interview with me, I'm a player who wants things to be transparent,
Yeah.
I didn't think that was the right thing to do, rewarding somebody for being a spoiled brat, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, within my head, football, as a footballer, it's always a release. When you're playing games, it's a release, you're a happy place. When that happy place is taken away and you're going home and, you're away from your family and everything else, there's nowhere to turn. So when Eddie did end up leaving and Sean Dyche came in, and Sean Dyche, was brilliant with me. And when I had my first one-to-one with him, I see you as a future player for me, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, when I look back now, mentally, I wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
I was injured when he first came in. The team were doing okay. So when I came back, I was on the bench. I didn't really care. I was just, no, that's wrong. I did care, but mentally I wasn't there. I wasn't happy anymore. I wasn't happy in life. And that's one thing I always put before football is how I feel in life. I wasn't happy. I remember I played a game against Barnsley where I think Dean Marnie maybe was suspended. Someone was suspended. I went in and started the game.
Yeah.
I didn't feel myself. I felt heavy. I felt lethargic. Even in the warm-up, I remember I got a touch of cramp, whether it was nervousness or whatever. I just wasn't there. I was there in body, but not in soul anymore. I was gone.
Yeah.
I played, the first half, the worst half of football I ever played in my life at any level. I was abysmal. I had played for a long time, but that wasn't me. I could have looked after myself a lot better in training. Did extras, blah 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 blah. Played that 45 minutes. Got dragged at half time. Could have got dragged after 20 minutes. I knew that was my career over then. And that wasn't the fault of Sean Dyche or anyone else. That's the fault of Marvin Bartley, because I could have avoided that by looking after myself better.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I had to go through something like that in my career where I kind of took my eye off the ball. That's not acceptable for me as a person. That's not how I am. That's not how I was brought up, and that's not the hunger I've got within football. But for that short period, I did that. And it came around to bite me on the bum because I was then, knew that it was kind of game over for me.
In terms of your Burnley career, you mean?
Yeah. For Burnley, yeah, I knew it was game over. I can't play like that and expect to play again. I'm not a realist. No, it's not going to happen.
So then, during that summer, are you having any conversations with Sean Dyche about what is going to be happening into the following season? Because obviously, you then moved to Leyton Orient on a loan. Initially for a month, and then that gets extended. So how does that kind of come about? Are you having conversations with Sean just to say, look, I need to go somewhere else, or is he saying it to you?
No, I had a conversation with Sean, and I just said, I want to go home. I think it's probably the second conversation that I'd had with him.
Really?
And as a man, he knows, as I'll know, and I'm a manager, if somebody's not happy and they want to leave, and for a reason like that, that's never going to change.
No.
It's never going to change. It was set too deep. Even if I started playing every week in, week out, it was set too deep within me that I wanted to go home. I was missing home too much, and I was homesick.
Right.
And I had that conversation with him. At this point, again, I was using another agent and said, just get me as close to them as possible. No disrespect to Leyton Orient. I had, they meant nothing to me. It's just a location. It was just a location. And I remember I had a hamstring injury. And I came back and I trained fully one day. And Alistair Beattie, who's still the physio now at Burnley, who's an unbelievable physio, said to me, Marv, you can't go because you're not ready. Your body isn't ready. I know you trained this one day and you've kind of forced yourself back a week early to train this one day. You're not ready. And it's almost like he was reading my head. I knew I wasn't ready. But all I wanted to do is sign my home form and get out of here and get closer to home.
Right.
So with Leyton Orient playing Carlisle away, Alistair said he shouldn't go. I forced it through on the Thursday. So I met them at Blackburn's training ground on the Friday. We trained, we did a bit, and it was my second day of full training after being out for 6 or 8 weeks, and my hamstring tightened up. So much so it was like a rock, and I knew something's definitely not right here. But I didn't want to say anything on that day in case they managed to cancel the loan somehow.
Yeah.
So I waited till the next day. I was on the bench because I only trained one day, but I couldn't move. Even warming up, I was limping.
Wow.
I just had to hide it. I had to hide it from the manager, from the physio, from the sports scientist. I had to hide it. In that night in the hotel, I had probably, I can't remember how many baths and how long I stayed in that hot water just to try and like loosen the muscle. But it wasn't right, you know. I just didn't have the training miles within my legs, within my hamstrings. So I stepped up. I should have probably been doing one day, which I did at Burnley, then having the next 3 days off, then building up again the next week. But I just wanted to go. And I wasn't fit, and you know that season was just the same. You know, reoccurring injuries with the hamstring.
So when you're talking to your agent at this point, saying that you want to go home, other than Orient, do you remember any sort of conversations of other clubs maybe being interested at the time? Was there anything from the Championship in that area that kind of wanted you to come on board as well?
There was Birmingham, but I wasn't allowed to go there. Birmingham wanted to take me, but you know, at that point, Burnley were like, no, that's not an option. You know, with both teams being in the Championship and probably, you know, expected to be around the same sort of like places in the league.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense from a club perspective, does it, to loan player out to some direct rival? Yeah,
and almost like strengthen them or however you see it. So, you know, that the option was, you know, I had to kind of drop a league, and I accepted that because I just wanted to get out. But you know, as I said, that was a hard season because the reoccurring injuries, and I'll be honest, I never realised how important a good physio is until I went there.
Yeah,
because it just wasn't up to scratch until I actually, you know, kept getting the same injuries because the rehab, you know, I'm not being disrespectful, and I won't name the physio, was horrific.
At Leighton Orient, yeah.
At Orient, yeah, it was horrific. It just wasn't up to scratch, and you know, going into management, remembering all these things will serve me well because your backroom team's so important, and it wasn't up to scratch there. You know, it was below par. It was worse than I had at non-league, and I had to go to the reserve physio, a guy called Joe Sharp, who rehabbed me, and touch wood, you know, the hamstring's never gone again since. But for the next probably 12 to 18 months, I kept getting reoccurring problems whilst doing the other physio stuff, and I knew it wasn't right what he was telling me to do, and I was telling him it wasn't right, and he was telling me to do it, and I was getting injured, and he was blaming it kind of on me. Until, you know, I kind of stepped away, and I went to Joe, and Joe fixed me. And as I said, I've never been injured with the hamstring again since.
Yeah. Oh, it just reminds me so much of me when I had my ankle injury. Christ above, I tore 3 ligaments in my ankle a couple of years back, and they couldn't diagnose it properly for about 3 or 4 months. So I was doing physio after physio after physio, and nothing was working. And then I finally went to a different hospital, had a right scan, and they went, yeah, it's this, but they're fused back now, so you're going to have to start your rehab all over again.
Wow.
Mentally, that just, like, it messes your head, doesn't it?
Yeah, I thought about retiring. You know, this is probably the first time I've ever told anyone that. I thought about retiring. You know, I remember once So
how many sort of like reoccurrences of this is going on? Like, how long are you kind of sidelined for in this opening season?
Well, it went over the first season, but I'm probably thinking I've probably 4 times, and they're ranging between 6 weeks and longer. And I'm coming back, and it's going again within, you know, 2 or 3 games. And
yeah,
it might have been Carlisle again at home. I remember I went to run, and it went. And I remember coming off the pitch, and I just burst into tears, and I was like, I can't put my body through this anymore. I was like, mentally, I was at the lowest point that I probably could have been, and I said, I can't do this. You know, my body clearly isn't meant for this. I can't put my body through this, and you know, I burst into tears.
Honestly, I'm feeling I've been like not even comparing myself to you, because obviously you're in a different game than what I am. But I remember with mine, I remember trying to just go out one day and just walk into the top of my road and back. I got to the top of the road, I burst into tears because I was on my own. My missus was constantly going to work. I was at home so much on my own.
Yeah.
Visitors stopped coming over because they've obviously got their own lives. I was 5 months into it, and I still couldn't walk to the top of my road. And it took me about 10, 15 minutes just to go from one end to the other. And I just got to the top and cried. I just stood there crying for 5 minutes just because I was like, what the hell is going on? So for you,
it's like a build-up, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So for you to have the injury, go through what you perceive as a recovery, then it happens again. Then to injury, to recovery, to do it again. That must be
doing the recovery and knowing it's not right, because I'd been around other physios and other boys who had hamstring injuries. I knew something wasn't right, but still being told you had to do it. That was the most frustrating thing. And then until I had to say, this man cannot treat me anymore. I cannot allow him to treat me anymore. that's the decision I had to make. And I was looking at other things. Am I doing it? And it was just what he was telling me to do and how he was going about it. He wasn't serious about his job. And this is why football is so important. It's not just about the manager and the players. Everyone has to be ambitious. Everyone has to evolve together. Because if there's a department like that that's not doing their job, I'm telling you, like the reoccurring injuries, and you can laugh and joke about it and be friendly with the physio and whatever else, but it's not doing their job. They're not doing their job, and it's going to cost someone. And it almost cost me, because I hand on heart, I almost retired that day and said, I'm not even, I can't do this. I'm not doing it anymore. And that's when Joe kind of stepped in.
So during that season, the club is actually performing really well. It's they get to the playoff final and etc. etc. They're one game away from being in the championship.
Yeah.
You as an individual who has come in, you had it was a loan, then it came into a permanent side of things. Are you able to enjoy any of that? I suppose probably not really, if you're kind of in and out of the team.
Yeah, I'm on the outskirts of it. It's a frustrating thing, because I knew I'd been brought in that season to play games. So I'm thinking, well, that should have been me out there playing all the time.
Yeah.
I was only meant to be on the bench for the first game, and I was going to play there on in. But it didn't happen that way, and the team kept winning. Rather, I kept getting injured. So I'm a team player. Don't get me wrong. Don't ever think that it's anything different. But from a selfish point of view, I'm getting injured all the time. The team keeps on winning. It's making it even harder.
Yeah.
Even harder for me. I'm not playing. I've come down a level. I'm not playing. Where do I go from here, kind of thing?
Do you remember much of like fans' reaction to any of that kind of stuff? Because again, from a Norwich perspective, we had a player, Matt Jarvis, who
the winger.
He's had horrific injuries throughout his career. He came to us on loan, had an amazing debut, started off really well. We signed him, and then all the injuries that had happened before started happening again and again. And from a fan's perspective, all you kept seeing was, what a waste of money. Why has the club done this? They knew there was a risk. They knew this was happening. Do you remember much of that reaction from a mental aspect as well? Does that kind of stuff feed into what's going on with you?
I try and steer clear of that sort of thing, so I wouldn't look it up on, never got on fans forums or anything like that. But I do remember one comment. It was actually when Russell Slade left, so it would have been the second season.
Yeah.
And someone had written underneath it, all the great things that Russell Slade, has done for the club. Right. And then someone had joked about, said, oh yeah, and gave us Marvin Bartley. I remember seeing that and just thinking, I don't know this guy from Adam. He probably can't play football. He probably, just someone sitting at home. And I was thinking, wow, like that hurts. That actually hurts. And why am I allowing that to hurt? I don't know, but it did.
It's a human reaction. I experience it in a different aspect in terms of the YouTube stuff that we do. You may get 10 to 20 likes on a video, but the moment you get one dislike, that plays on your mind. It doesn't matter all the good stuff you've done. That one dislike, it's just a mental, it's just a human reaction. You can't help it, can you?
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's kind of where it left me. And I was like, I'll prove that person wrong. I will do it. Yeah.
So during that second season then, from a club perspective, it's just change of chairman, constant change of managers. How are you dealing with that as a player? Again, we're having worked under Russell Slade in that opening season. The club's on a massive high, and then all of a sudden it's all starting to fall apart, maybe when you're then getting back into your fitness and your prime. What's the time like at the club?
The funny thing about this Leyton Orient story, and everyone blames the owner, the players again. I'm telling you,
really?
So many players who are hauled as legends now, and this, that, and the other. For want of a better word, and I have to be very careful about what I say here.
We can believe
they were. It couldn't have been any worse. They couldn't have.
Was it kind of just like a down tools kind of thing? Just like
not just down in tools, their own tools. They were being infectious in the wrong way. They tore the club apart from the inside, and then played it up on social media as if they were being, brilliant about things. There was jealousy there. New players have been brought in on big money. There was massive jealousy. Jealousy. The chairman came in, right? Anyone who plays football manager, who wants to be a manager in real life, the chairman came in and said, any free transfer player out there that you want, let me know, I'll go and get them. So you've got Darius Henderson, got Joby McAnuff, got Jay Simpson, got Shane Lowry.
Yeah.
What has the chairman done wrong there? What has he done wrong there? Do you know what had happened? The season before, we did it on whatever budget we did it on, but it was self-police. We weren't. Again, it wasn't an Eddie Howe situation where we were trained this way and we just were winning games. The boys were winning the games.
Yeah.
You know, there wasn't an Eddie Howe, there wasn't a Messiah there, although some people might try and say that or think that. There wasn't a Messiah there. The boys were just winning games. So the following season, you know, when the Italian chairman comes in, and for all the wrongs he does have, he came in and he backed it up and he spent the money he said he would spend and more. But there was jealousy then. You know, Andreas De Sena, you know, a left back, played in the World Cup for Italy, playing left back for us. Napoli, you know, played for Liverpool, played for Sunderland. And there was jealousy amongst the old and the new. That's all it was. And that forced the club the way it went. Right. And this is why I laugh. You know, social media is so funny because people go out there, oh yeah, I love the club, this, that, and the other. I was there. I was in that changing room. And I saw what happened.
Yeah.
You know, Leyton Orient fans will never know what happened within there. But I'm telling you, if they knew what happened in there, they would be disgusted.
Yeah, because I have seen, I don't know if you've actually seen it, but there was a Copper 90 video on YouTube where they basically followed Leyton Orient fans in the final, I think it was 7 or 8 games of the season when they got relegated to the National League. And the whole thing had just been made into this massive circus. And obviously we saw all the fans' demonstrations. And, you know, who am I to say that Leyton Orient fans don't have a right to be able to put those thoughts and opinions across about the chairman? But it's interesting to get a player's perspective from actually what's going on inside. Because, as you said, from an outside and fans, they look at one guy and they think, well, he must be the cause of everything that's going on. I mean, I know maybe in the second season he decided, right, it's not for me. But
people were pulling money out of him left, right, and centre. That's why there was a dishonesty within the club. And you know what? Some of the people that chairman brought in, so he said that, yeah, that is his fault. But in terms of when he first went there, any aspiring manager, if someone comes in and says you can sign any free transfer players that you want to sign, and you bring in those 4 boys and it doesn't work, don't start looking up at him.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah, I think he's going to tell you to sign them.
Yeah. Who do you want? Blank piece of paper. Who do you want? Write these names down. He went and got them.
Yeah.
Second season, I think he had enough because people were pulling out money left, right, and centre. I felt he wasn't being appreciated by the fans because the team weren't performing. That could have went totally the other way. You signed those 4 players. We went from being, I think 15th favourite in the league to the favourites.
Yeah.
They were massive players. Joby McAnuff, still playing now, but at that point, unbelievable player. Darius Henderson, Jay Simpson. These are unbelievable players.
Yeah.
The jealousy set in. And as I keep saying, you've got energizers and you've got zappers. And there was too many zappers within there, and they were pulling boys in. Before you knew it, so many were being zappers. So many were moaning. Who are these boys to be moaning about? Joby McAnuff, an international footballer. They played for Jamaica, played at Copa Americas. And you want to moan? Played captain Redden in the Premier League. Darius Henderson played in the Premier League. Jay Simpson played at Arsenal, played at Hull. Yeah. Who are these boys to moan? They're League 2 players. No disrespect. I came from the same background as them. Don't look at these boys and moan. They embrace it.
Yeah, that's it. At the end of that season, then you move on to Hibs after the club is relegated. Now, is that something that you kind of did you want that move, or did the offer come out of the blue? How did that happen? And because it's very, I'm trying to think of the right way of putting this, but when a team does get relegated, I suppose your stock takes a hit as well, because you are seen to be a part of that team. So where did the interest come from? When did you first hear about it before moving to Hibs?
Well, first and foremost, I thought we had the manager there, and I can't remember his name, Fabio Lavarini, maybe his name was something like that.
I'll have to look it up.
We had him there, so he didn't know what was happening with him. If he was going to stay, he wanted to keep me. But the chairman had pulled all the money out. But I've become, my love for football, that situation had really drained me. Really drained me to see grown men act like that and be like that, and it's like being in a classroom at nursery. It was draining.
Because I suppose from your perspective, it's not only happened once; it's happened at Burnley as well. That's now
But
two.
this was worse than Burnley. This was the extreme.
Really?
This was the extreme. You know,
Wow.
if someone would have recordings of this, it would be number one hit on Netflix. I'm telling you, that's what it was like. This was the extreme, and I was drained with football, and the team had been relegated. So you know, I knew the implications that has for forget the players, for staff members. You know, the work within the club, redundancies are made. The real life, the real people that, you know, these jobs mean everything to them. You know, players can move on and find another club, whatever. So I was in Jamaica, and he called me and said, "Oh, you know what? You know, the chairman's cutting the budget. I think I'm going to lose my job. Won't be able to offer you a contract. Fine, that's okay." Enjoyed my holiday, came back, and I needed something to get me going again. You know, I had offers from League Two, from League One teams, but nothing that excited me. You know, and at this point, I now look back and I should never be this way, but I needed something to hit that spark again, to find a young Marvin Bartley that was, you know, hungry to play football, that was enjoying it. Because I didn't know about all this stuff in the professional game. All I thought is you train Monday to Friday, play a game on a Saturday, repeat next week. I didn't know all this, the squabbling and the draining and all this stuff that could happen, the jealousy and all these other things that came with it.
All the politics of football.
Yeah. I didn't know that they were there. And that hit me hard, and that drained me. And I was waiting and waiting. And it got to like July, and I was still waiting, and I was still telling clubs, "No, I don't fancy that." And you know what? I started thinking, you know, because before I did go professional, I did my kind of license to be to work in a prison, to be a prison guard. I started thinking, maybe go back to part time. Yeah, I said maybe go back to part time and do that, and, you know, forge a career in that. And the Leyton Orient call came, and, you know, obviously I came up to the stadium and the training ground after a while, and, you know, I don't know if you've seen the facilities, but they're unbelievable. You know, the training grounds is unbelievable. Stadium's absolutely lovely. Edinburgh, lovely city. So I was sold on it. You know, I came up and I was like, right, this is the spark I needed. Where the interest came from, no idea. Still to this day, Graham Matthew called me, who I stay in contact with now. He works at the club. Where it came from, I don't know, but it was like a godsend to me, because it really got kind of my juices flowing and really began to excite me. And, you know, and then I ended up coming up and signing.
Do you remember having that opening conversation with Alan Stubbs at the time? Before you signed it, or did you? Because I never know how certain clubs handle it, whether or not the manager's the one having the conversation with the player, whether or not it's a chairman or a director of football, whatever. Do you remember having that first chat with him? What's he like as a?
Yeah, no, great guy, really great guy. You know, as I say, Graham Matthew, you know, did the initial stuff, contacting me, sorting my flights out, getting me up. And then I spoke to Alan Stubbs, and my worry was, you know, I kind of started having flashbacks to the Burnley thing, you know, being away from home, not enjoying your football, becoming homesick. And he obviously knew that, so he got me to speak to Liam Fontaine, who's a boy from, you know, London, played at Bristol City, was at Hibs, and his family was still down the road. And he said to me, you know, if you need an extra day off, then the manager gives it to you, blah 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 blah. So kind of rest assured. So which I did, you know. But no, I spoke to Alan Stubbs, and it was brilliant. You know, he's obviously a legend. You know, still unbelievable in training, left foot, right foot. I remember he said to me, it was either he always used to be right-footed and his knee got knackered, so he taught himself to kick it with his left foot. And everyone started to think he was left-footed, and he actually wasn't. Just his knee was knackered on the right, so he couldn't kick it. So he learned to kick it on the other side. So no, he was really, really good. Just came from Everton under 23s. So no, it was perfect for me. You know, he was ambitious. The club wanted to get promoted. You know, they wanted to win the Scottish Cup if possible. It hadn't been done for so long, and it was a great club, and the infrastructure was fantastic. It was a great opportunity for me.
Yeah, because I suppose in terms of the club itself, it's a big club to have in the second tier of Scottish football. So I suppose their aim would have been promotion. That's like the most important thing, get up to the top flight. Do you remember those kind of conversations being taking place, or were they in a rebuilding structure?
No, promotion. It was promotion. The club needed promotion. So much so that, you know, financially the club were going to be in trouble. Not skint, because it's a huge club with a lot of things to you know, the overheads of the training ground and whatever else. The club needed to get out of that league, you know, otherwise the budget was probably going to be cut next season. Although I had a 2-year contract, you know, the boys who only had a year left, you know, maybe we'd have to take a pay decrease or whatever else.
Yeah.
So no, promotion was the key word. Let's get up, let's get promoted.
Yeah. And I want to just talk about the cup runs at Hibs in that opening season. You got to 2 finals.
Yeah.
You won one, and you lost one.
Mm-hmm.
What is it like going into an environment of that winning culture of this is our aim? We're going for a cup competition. Having been in non-league football and maybe been at clubs where the cup competition have maybe not taken that seriously. What is that like as a pro?
But it's weird because being there and being in the cup competitions, we're still a championship team in that first year.
Yeah.
So the finals, unbelievable. But going into games and thinking, right, as long as we avoid Celtic or Rangers. So that's like your Leeds saying, as long as we avoid, Man City or Liverpool, we're fine. Well, hang on a minute. There's up here, there's 10 other teams in the Premier League. What do you mean? Let's just avoid those 2.
Yeah.
But we always believed that, on our day, we could beat any of the others.
Yeah.
On our day, we really believed that. And going to each cup game and playing and we were like, right, we can win this. And then we started getting through the rounds, and then we were playing Hearts at Tynecastle in the derby. We were 2-0 down. Managed to get back to 2-2. Paul Hanlon scored at the end, and kind of the away support erupted. That was in my first derby game, and unbelievable. We got them back to Easter Road, and obviously kind of played with them.
Just very briefly before we move on to the finals, the intensity of that derby. What is it like? Because I see it on TV. I prefer that to the Rangers Celtic, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
But they hate each other. Absolutely despise each other.
The hate is real as well. Not just from the fans, but in the tunnel, and you've got the players. I'll never forget they lined up in the tunnel for a derby, and one of their players said to me something wee man. And obviously at this point, I'm English. I don't know what wee man means. So I was like, what's this guy saying? And then
you're just like, hello.
Yeah, it means like small man. And I kind of looked across and I kind of laughed because I knew when we got out on the pitch, all that talking stops.
Yeah.
Talks cheap. But getting that replay, we were absolutely buzzing. Back to Easter Road, packed stadium, winning that game. Sunshine on Leaf being sung, you're like, come on, who am I to achieve this? That's probably the first point when I heard that song for the first time, when I actually sat back in my car and I got in my car and I kind of looked at myself and just thought, wow, like, how has this happened? From being released at, Reading, being released from Burnham, how are you here?
So that's the first point you felt like, I've made it. This is it.
The rest of it happened too quickly. Bournemouth, perfect. Burnley, brilliant, because you've got, more wages. Leyton Orient was disappointing. But this is the first time. Then I've come back out of it. So I've gone up, as I've tasted the players, you're going to go up and down. And then I've gone down at Leyton Orient. Lower than I probably started when I was at Bournemouth.
Yeah.
And now I'm coming up again and hearing this song and I'm thinking, wow, like it's even when you listen to it on YouTube, that song, you think, wow, being a player on that pitch though, and hearing that.
I've listened to the one where I can't remember if it's the most recent final after Hibs won. It's incredible, isn't it? It's really honestly, something else.
It's even now thinking about it, just like it's spine tingling. It's scary, and hearing that and thinking, you were playing at Henley and being told you weren't good enough. And I think I put a picture on Instagram where Henley, we had no fans, and I'm standing in front of the West Stand at Easter Road, and Sunshine Leaf's being sung, and got Bart in the back of my shirt. How have I arrived here? And that was the first time I thought, how have you arrived here? I didn't know, I didn't care, but I said to myself, you know what, mate, just enjoy it.
This is it. The 2 finals then. Let's talk about those in a little bit of detail, because you mentioned about the fact that the club, or as players, or maybe as a club, you're thinking, as long as we avoid Rangers or Celtic, then we've got every chance.
Yeah.
So the 2 finals, the League Cup is first.
Ross County,
against Ross County, and then the final against Rangers is in the May. So you've got obviously a gap in between those. Was the atmosphere, because obviously for the Rangers game, you're underdogs, there's less pressure on you.
Yeah.
Do you think that maybe the players felt the pressure in the first final, or was it not like that at all?
No, it wasn't like that. We went into that thinking we're just gonna beat them. We believed we were better than them.
Yeah.
We believed we were going to win the game, and playing the game. even to this day, you speaking about that final, I don't know how we lost.
Yeah.
Total control of the game. Total control of the game. You know, from start to finish, absolute control. And we letting that goal at the end. And you say to yourself, how? You know, you watch that game back now and you'd be like, surely Hibs cannot lose this game.
Yeah.
It was one of those. And do you know what? That I'll talk about moments where you know, the switch is hit or whatever terminology you want to use. We drove back from Hampden to Easter Road, and the club had put on something for the players and the staff, and obviously it had to get cancelled, but all the balloons were up and everything. We had to walk past that stand where you could see it to our cars in the compound.
Yeah.
And we saw it, and nobody said anything, but it was pretty unanimous, I think, that everyone thought we can't go through this again.
Is that all the motivation you need for the final against Rangers then?
We didn't need any motivation because, you know, everyone wanted, but that just added something else, you know, a different dimension.
What did the manager mention the previous final in the build up to it? What's the talk? The dressing room talk before the game? Is there like a "don't let this happen again" kind of speech, or is it just nothing needs to be said?
No, nothing needs to be said, because you have to remember at this point we're still chasing promotion out of the league or going into the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a very, very busy time, and you know, in football you don't get too highs with the highs or too lows with the lows, but especially at this point, you know, at that low you don't want to even be talking about it. You know, well done, you've made the final, blah blah blah. Let's go and achieve our two other things, because everyone's talking about the treble at this point. You know, you could be League Cup, Scottish Cup, and promoted. You know, what an achievement. So we kind of knew that. So we go into the playoff games and we lose in the playoff, and it's heartbreaking. And you know, but we still got the Scottish Cup. You know, we still got that massive game to come. And you know, the thing that going into that, why I probably had more confidence than normal against Rangers, is because they had a massive break. They won the league, and we were in the playoffs. So they won the championship. We were in the playoffs, which meant they had to have a 3-week break between their last game and the cup final. So we were still playing.
Yeah, everyone thinks if you're having a break, it's an advantage because you're able to rest up and there's no...
A week break is. If it's Saturday to Saturday, it's an advantage. If you have a team playing midweek, when it's 3 weeks, like, you know, you decondition. Yeah. And you're at the end of the season, so your body's aching. So all those aches you've been, you know, kind of masking by continuously playing, it's like routine, isn't it? And then when you stop, you're like, wow, I'm shattered. And, you know, as soon as you stop, you're like, for the first 2 weeks, you're absolutely knackered. But they were still trying to train, and still they went away and played a friendly and all this, but it just can't replicate competitive football.
That moment then, when the full-time whistle goes and you've won, describe that feeling, if you can. From where you've been to where you've got to, you've had the disappointment of the loss. What is that moment like? Just talk me through it, if you can.
I probably couldn't, like, honestly, it's like probably how I imagine a lottery win to feel. You know, I've been part of a squad and a team that have achieved the unachieved, you know, the unexpected, you know, you shouldn't be able to do this. You know, when I came up here and I say to the fans, do you want to win the league or the Scottish Cup? When I started to realise how important it was, they're like, no, the Scottish Cup. I want to win the Scottish Cup. That's unachievable, you know, you've achieved it. Like, how? You know, people haven't seen that. And there was one Hibs fan who had seen the last Scottish Cup win. There's only one person, one fan. So these people are like, I'm never going to experience that in my life. The taxi drivers you meet, the fans you meet out and about, are never going to experience this. Never going to happen. Been to finals, got beat 5-1, lost this, lost that. It's not going to happen. And you're part of that. And that final whistle goes, and half of the stadium erupts. They run on the pitch. They're pushed back off. Sunshine and Leafs began to be sung again, and you're like, wow. People are crying. Judy Murray's up there crying. You're like, what's happening? I was fitting double glazed windows and suddenly I'm here.
Yeah, mental. I suppose because you're still involved in the playoffs situation of that, you probably don't really have much time to celebrate it after the game has happened, do you? Or
no, we had lost the playoff before that. So in between the playoff was before that. So we had lost the playoff. So that's why everyone was like, oh, wow, they're never going to win the Scottish Cup now. Yeah. They just lost a full cup.
Right.
So it was in between that. So again, you've got the League Cup, you lost the final, you played on a little bit, lost the playoffs.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. So you've gone from papers talking about how they could do a potential treble, promotion, 2 cups, to hang on, they've lost 2 of those things now. They're not going to win a Scottish Cup. They're actually going to be seen as failures. This is a bad season.
Yeah.
And it would have been if we didn't win that game. Wow.
So
bad season.
What are the celebrations like afterwards? Then do you,
Mind blowing.
as a club, do you remember? Can you remember much about it?
Do you know what I remember? I remember the final whistle, and then I remember being at the like the mayor's like chambers or whatever it was the following day. There was a lot of alcohol, family and partner and stuff up there. So yeah, it was just it was crazy. It was crazy, and like I say, just sit there with the Scottish Cup winners medal, and people are crying and approaching you in the street, and everyone's just in tears. And it didn't really sink in until we got on that bus for the parade.
Yeah. And
this was another point, where again, people, when I came to Scotland, why are you going to Scotland? Don't go there. Oh, that's the end of it. And people who, are meant to be your friends and whatever else are making comment, and you're like, they don't understand the mental side of football. It's not just about me staying in England for the sake of staying in England.
Yeah.
Nothing was exciting me, But when we turned that corner and there was a sea of green, I think it was 150,000 people came out.
Wow.
Honestly, because we started driving, there was a few fans here and that side. And when we turned to go on the start of like what was officially the start of the parade, and I kind of speak to my mate, and I turned and I looked, and I was like, wow.
The magnitude of what you've just done is right there in front of you.
Right there in front of me. Right there in front of me. So that flashback to the Burnham release again, the non-league. And now you're here. Now you're on this bus. Now you're one of 30 or 40 people on this bus who have achieved this, to bring this amount of people out. Come on, like, that doesn't happen to people like me. It doesn't, that's not meant to happen. I'm not meant to be there. I'm not meant to be a part of that. It was scary.
Yeah. That summer then, Alan Stubbs goes.
Yeah.
Neil Lennon comes in. For you as a pro, when, the club they've been there, nearly there on 2 fronts and won a third front, did it come as a bit of a shock to you that he left?
No, because I think we had failed in terms of the league. The Scottish Cup, don't get me wrong, was the biggest achievement that could have beyond anyone's wildest dreams. But the club knew that, we had a great chance of getting out of the Championship the following season. And I think we were too regimental in our approach maybe to games. And I think that's what, the people in power maybe had seen, that we were maybe being too nice. We needed to just be, more cutthroat, for want of better words. We really needed to have that gritty side to us, because we were in the Championship, we're not in the Premier League. But when we played against teams in the league above, it suited us better, because they would have come and attacked us and be like, we can beat Hibs, they're in the Championship.
Yeah.
We're playing teams at our level and they're sitting behind the ball. They wanted to get physical. Sometimes we just get bullied.
Yeah.
But Neil Lennon came in and he laid it down straight away. And there was a few things. One of them was timekeeping, do not be late. It's my pet hate. There was another one of his pet hates, which I can't remember. And the third one was, this football club will be in the Premier League next season with the boys in this room or without you. He said it'll be hard, but it will be enjoyable, because at the end you'll get your reward. If there's any of you who don't want to do it, call me, get your agent to call me, you can leave the club.
Wow.
So we're going in the direction, and some of you are going to be left by the wayside. Some of you will be able to come, some of you are going to be left behind, because you're not up to the demands. But I'll tell you this one thing, this football club will be in the Premier League with or without you next season, and walked out.
Did you appreciate that honesty? No? Just straight
to I just like, wow, football for me is about being transparent.
Yeah.
Always. Whether you're going to drop me, whether you're going to tell me I'm the best player in the world, just be honest. Just be honest with what you're feeling, and then I can work with that. Because one thing I'll always say about him, he was always honest with me, whether I wanted to hear it or not. And I respected that. Some people didn't, younger people didn't, society's changing.
Yeah.
But, the older boys definitely respected that, and, he was true to his word.
Yeah. Obviously, he then gets you promoted during that first season. The cup runs maybe don't happen, but I suppose at that point, the cup runs are really not that important. As the big aim is to get the club promoted. during that season, what is it like when you do finally get promoted again? You're having continued success now as an individual. You've just won the cup, and now you're promoted up to the top.
He hammered us that last game when we got the trophy. I can't remember what the result was, the score. He wasn't happy with the performance. He was not happy. He was raging, and that sums him up, kind of back then you're thinking, what's wrong with you? But now looking back, and as I'm, going from player to kind of into the kind of coaching mindset, I respect that. I look back and laugh and be like, wow, he's such a perfectionist. He doesn't care that we've won the championship. That was what he said at the start. You won the Scottish Cup, well done, but you're still failed if you didn't get promoted. And that was a bit like, oh, wow, everyone's been telling us we're the best things ever here, and you just come in and said that, like, geez, like now we're like, standing to attention. But yeah, I remember the last game, the home game before we lifted it, and he wasn't happy at all, but still came out and celebrated with us rather.
Yeah. Then your first sort of season in the Premier League as what it was, Scottish Premiership.
Yeah.
The club finished fourth. It's a semi-final of a cup competition. Again, is it just, as a club, are you just kind of riding this wave of momentum, so to speak?
Yeah, but as weird as it sounds, we were better suited to the Premier League, and we always knew that because teams would come and attack us. No one would really show us respect. So we were better suited to playing in that league than the Championship. So going up, there wasn't a worry of, oh wow, how are we going to deal with this? We're like, now this is going to probably be easier than the Championship.
Yeah,
finished fourth. I think it might have been a record. Was that a record points total for Hibs in the top flight? I think that season we equalled it.
Wow.
And again, Neil Lennon's a perfectionist. He wasn't happy. Because he said we should have finished third. We had a chance of finishing second, I think, at one point. It was really nip and tuck. And we kind of fell away maybe the last 6 or 7 games.
Right.
But, we had a chance to do that. And we believed in ourselves. Stepping up, we believed in ourselves. We knew we could do it. And, that was a fantastic season in terms of so much enjoyment in the Premier League. Stadiums full all the time. And there's a real buzz around the club. The fans are excited. The people that work within the club are excited. There's a real positive atmosphere there. Great bunch of lads. Everything was perfect.
So the rest of your time at Hibs, then, how do you reflect on that period of time? The few years after that.
I'll always look back on it as nothing but positive, nothing but enjoyment. I probably started to not play as much as I wanted to play, especially in the last season.
Yeah.
When Neil left, Paul Heckingbottom came in. For me, if he was managing an English Premier League in 3 years' time, I wouldn't be surprised. It wouldn't shock me. Yeah, and it shocks a lot of people when I say that. I didn't start a game underneath him. His attention to detail in training was only second to Eddie Howe's.
Wow.
Fantastic coach.
That's high praise.
Fantastic coach. Unbelievable. Fantastic man. The only problem I think he had at Hibs, he probably tried to run before he could walk and trying to change the philosophy of the club and the way that the team played football. Trying to bring in too many players from down south who probably didn't understand the league. Got rid of too many big characters in the changing room, and it just, if he had his time again, as I said, he's a perfectionist. He would probably say, I've made a few mistakes, and that's what all you can do is learn from them. But no, listen, that time at Hibs, a club that I love, people know that. I would look out for their results now, even though I'm playing in the same league. But when I do cross the white line and I'm playing against them, they know that love is gone. I'm out there to get 3 points, and whatever I have to do to get those 3 points, and whoever I have to run through, then I'll do it. But no, fantastic time. Met some great people there. Still stay in contact with them. Met the best physio that I've ever worked with in Nathan Ring, who works at England under-21s as well. How that man's not in the English Premier League, I have no idea how he's not been headhunted. And Hibs fans will hate him for saying this if they're watching it. That man, honestly, see, if I was to get, someone said, right, you're going to go in and be the Arsenal manager tomorrow, the first signing I make is him.
Really?
Honestly, he is a wizard. Unbelievable. And, but yeah, I've met some fantastic people there. Still stay in contact with. Spoke to Nathan today, actually. Spoke to Graham yesterday. I still speak to a lot of the boys and a lot of the backroom staff, and it's a fantastic time. But it ended. Football for me is a 4 or 5 year cycle. When I went in there, the team in the Championship, I left the team in the Premier League with a Scottish Cup, 2 visits to Europe, and a promotion at the Championship.
Yeah,
my time was done there, and I needed to start playing more football because I'm coming towards the end and sitting on the sides and playing once every 6 or 7 weeks.
Yeah,
my body, Marvin Bartley at this age, wasn't able to perform the way I wanted to do that if I was doing that.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that really what prompted for the Hibs spell to come to an end? Was just the lack of game time?
Yeah, I needed more football. As I said, when you're 28, 29, playing once every 6 weeks, you can probably deal with. Up until that age, you get into your 30s, it's very difficult to maintain that sharpness. I spoke to you earlier about playing games consistently, getting into a rhythm, and I wasn't allowed to do that last season, and that made my mind up. But it was also important I stayed in Scotland because I'd enrolled onto a football management course, business and football management. So that was, kind of why I ended up staying up here. But this is a perfect fit for me because it's going to allow me to, I think, move into the next part of my career also, which I've already started.
Yeah, I was just going to ask why did you decide to stay north of the border?
Yeah.
That was the main reason, because of the opportunities that they were allowing to do off the pitch as well as well.
Off the pitch is massive, and I speak to people about it, all the time. And being a coach and a manager is the next ambition for me, and this allowed me to do that. Allowed me to find out more about the business side that I probably never ever need, but it's good to know. Knowledge is power. I always think that. I've started doing my UEFA B. I could coach the reserve team here at this moment in time, and I'll probably be taking over as a manager of that next season.
Wow.
I'm going on to my UEFA A, which starts on Zoom June the 9th, I think it is. And that was the reason. I really am an ambitious coach, and don't get me wrong, I'm still as hungry as ever as a player. First and foremost, I'm a player, but my ambition to coach at the highest level is huge, and it's a burning desire, and it's one that I would achieve.
So, in terms of next season, still at Livingston, I'm guessing at this point.
Yeah.
Did you sign when you initially signed? Was it a 1 year or was it 2 years?
I signed 3 years, so I got.
Okay, wow. Then so you're there for the foreseeable then.
Yeah, I got 2 more years, and then that will be me. So, but during this time, it's important that I do learn as much about coaching as possible. And I've managed to build up a book from the age of 24 until I'm still learning now. But it's not just the training sessions; it's about the administration I went through, how I felt as a player, the ups and downs, how did I feel as a player? Yeah. And I go back now every so often and I answer it as a manager. How old do I deal with that? How do I deal with Marvin Bartley of 24? When this transfer comes up, what would I have said? Because how was I feeling then? And hopefully it'll put me in good stead for the next step.
Brilliant. So I suppose really from I know you mentioned that's the next part of your journey. When you think that the 2-year playing contract is done, do you think that's you're done with playing, so to speak?
Yeah, I want to be remembered, for he was a good player. What a good player he was. Rather than last year, he probably should have went a bit earlier.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to be, and I'm saying this to you now because I've got 2 years left, and I know when I've got 2 months left on my contract, and I'm still doing okay, I'll be like, maybe I could do another year. but up here, I have to, go out on that kind of like knowing that, yes, you're going to be missed, rather than, thank God we've got rid of him. And then I can step into the next part of it. And I've always said, coaching and managing, as a player, I was never going to be a Ronaldo or a Messi. No matter how much I trained, no matter how hard I worked, given a set of skills, and you can work, to improve them as much as you possibly can, improve your game. As a coach, the world's my oyster. I've learned so much in a short space of time. I've learned so much during this lockdown. Why can't I go and manage in the Premier League? Why can't I be the first black manager to win the Premier League? What's stopping me from doing that? Me. A bit of luck maybe, but me. And I have to work hard now and realise that when I go into that world, it's the same as at Hampton. I need to prove myself. I'm a nobody.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm looking forward to, and something that, I can't wait to get my teeth stuck into, because, like I said, I hope to be a huge success in that side of football.
Brilliant. Let's finish on some questions then, if that's all right.
That's cool.
Now, what I am going to say is Twitter. I'm extremely disappointed with you because we didn't have any Twitter questions. Instagram went off.
Oh, really?
On Instagram, but absolutely none on Twitter. So
how rude.
If any of you lot who are following me on Twitter, that's not good enough. That is disgusting. So we have got, let's start off with, who should we start off with? Some decent questions on here. we've got. Let's go with Luke. Let's start off with Luke's question. Scottish football has got a bit of a reputation south of the border. What do you make of Scottish football overall?
Talking about the Premier League, 'cause that's what I'm in now. It's a mixed bag. You know, you've got Celtic and Rangers, who are the top two, who are probably, you know, lower end Premier League, maybe your Bournemouth, you know, that sort of thing. Obviously, they're huge clubs. They've got a lot more fans and whatever else, and they'd have a lot more budget. I mean, them going in there now will probably be around that sort of level. You've then got, you know, Motherwell's, Aberdeen's, ourselves, who finished fifth. You know, kind of Hibs, I'll put in that bracket, and maybe St Johnstone, where we would be League One teams. You know, would be League One teams, and then you've probably Hearts again. They're in a false position. You know, I'd love to sit here and say that they're anything lower than that, but they're not. But yeah, as I say, it's probably from, you know, bottom half Prem, bottom third of the Prem to maybe League Two / Conference. Maybe also go Conference, down to the Conference. You know, from the bottom third of the Premier League, and that's within 12 teams. You've got that different range of abilities, which is wild. But you know, teams set themselves up to play a certain way. You know, we don't all go out and play. We don't play like Celtic. You could never go head to head with Celtic. We get beat, you know, every single day and twice on a Sunday. Same with Rangers. We have to have plans. You have to be, you know, imaginative of what you're trying to do. And we play Celtic and Rangers. We try to stop them. You know, that's just the way football is.
Yeah, that's it. Cheers for the question, Luke. We have got Tom, who asks your favourite manager you've played under. I think I might know the answer.
Yeah.
Conversation.
Eddie Howe, definitely. But listen, that's not taking, you know, when I go into management, Eddie Howe, Sean Dyche, you know, two managers, Neil Lennon's motivation, you know, their three managers are, you know, that I think are brilliant. But Eddie Howe, for me, is the best all round.
Definitely. Elliot asks, what's your favourite match you've ever played in?
Ooh, wow. My debut was brilliant, and I came on and we lost, and it was peeing down with rain. But it's your debut, first time seeing Bartley on the back of the shirt. But probably the Derby game, a guy called Simon Murray scored really early on, and we beat Hearts 1-0, and then Sunshine and Leaf was sung. So that was probably my favourite game to play in.
Definitely. Joe asks, in your playing career, who has been the one player you have not looked forward to playing against? So has there ever been a point where you've seen a lineup and you've seen who's playing, you're thinking, oh God, really?
Probably a few times, to be honest. You know, I played against Abdul Tarabt.
On his day, what a talent.
We talk about world footballers and the best in the world. I don't know how someone could be better at football than him. He just didn't pass. He just didn't want to pass. You know, but he was that good. He was like in the playground and you got an older kid. He was frightening. And we say he's failed as a player. He's played at AC Milan and he's at Benfica. So it's crazy. Yeah. But he should have been at Barcelona and Real Madrid. I think Harry Redknapp said it before. But Abdul Tarabt, you see that name and you think, oh, I don't need this.
Cheers for a question. Who else have we got? Jade. Let's go. Yeah, let's ask Jaden's question. Most impressive stadium you've played at?
Ellen Road. That was unbelievable. You know, playing there and it was packed, and yeah, their fans are so passionate. For anyone who's not, you know, seen a Leeds game or whatever, you know, go on YouTube. Such a passionate bunch, and that was a fantastic stadium. And again, that was quite early on in my professional career. Yeah. So I've gone from playing in front of 10 people to Ellen Road, a packed Ellen Road. It was marvelous.
Yeah. We've got David, who asks, one move that didn't come through that you wish had. I'm guessing it would probably maybe be the Leicester one right at the beginning.
Yeah, that was the move. There was also, I'd say, probably the Leicester one, but there's been other moves. When I was at Burnley and I went on a good run, and you know there was interest from other clubs, West Ham and Villa at that point. How strong that interest was, I don't know, but for ones that were definitely there, the Leicester one, yeah.
Final one. This is a hell of a question. Do you watch the True Geordie? Do you watch much YouTube?
I've. Do you know who I saw on there? I can't remember. Who did I see him interviewing? Was it Niall Ranger? Maybe I saw him interviewing. Yeah. I think that's the only one I've ever watched, I think.
So he asks, in line with True Geordie's final question, how would you like to be remembered? as a player?
He's somebody who came from the bottom and nothing and managed to achieve a little bit. Some people might say a lot with the Scottish Cup. But yeah, just to be remembered as kind of, someone who came from the bottom and managed to achieve his dreams. And that's how I want to be viewed by fans, by other young players and people out there who are non-league. I want to be, someone to them to look up to and think, well, if he could do it, I could do it. And my message on that would be, I was never the best player at any team I played for. Any team, any age group. Marvin Bartley was never the best player, but was the most committed, and I made the most sacrifices. And any young professional out there, any young semi-professional out there who wants to be a professional footballer, make those sacrifices. And I lost friends through doing it. So be it. This was my dream. And there'd be no better feeling than playing in a football league or wherever you play professionally and seeing your name in the back of your shirt and how proud it makes your family. Make the sacrifices you need to make, and when you come out at 35 or whatever, you can begin to enjoy your life then and do the partying that your mates want you to do now.
Superb. Absolutely brilliant way to end the podcast. Marvin, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on. All of you guys who have been listening to the podcast, if you've been watching on YouTube, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you are interested in more podcasts. We've got absolutely loads. We've done so many podcasts over the past couple of weeks with so many players. If you want to go back and listen to all of them, they're all in a playlist. As I said, leave a comment as well. If you're listening to this on any other podcasting device, make sure you leave us a 5-star review, which apparently is what you have to do. This is Adam's segment. He normally does this bit. So 5-star review, subscribe as well. And until we see each other next time, as always on the channel, adios.